There we go. So good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this special edition of I Am Meets ETP and You and Your Cash, i.e. Simone and Spaniard. So this is something we thought is good to put together because there's a lot going on out in this. And I'm going to do what Simon does, alleged truth scene. And I think there's a lot of attacks coming out there. There's a lot of negativity coming out there. And I think it's about time we started coming together in unity, which is why I Am works alongside with ETP and Simon. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand over to Simon and Simone, obviously introduce themselves. A lot of people on here know them. Some people may not know them. And then we'll just get cracking and we'll just go through what we need to talk about. So Simon, Simone, off after you. Introduce yourselves.
Go on, Simone. Off you go.
I was going to say age before beauty.
Well, that'd be you then, wouldn't it?
Oi! Cheeky monkey. All right. Okay. Just a little bit about me then. My name's Simone. I run a private membership association. Some of you may know it. I know there's some members here with us today, so it's great to see your faces. It's called Empower the People. It's something that I initiated, or the concept of Empower the People started to be developed in 2020. I would say I'm very similar to probably 90% of people on this call, and like 90% of people in this alleged truth scene, that I woke up at a very similar time as everybody else at the beginning of 2020, and I fell into the common law scene very quickly. I started running with Dave Murphy. A lot of you know him as allegedly Dave, and we brought forward the the first thing we did was put on it was about a 3-hour tabletop exercise to counteract event 201, and we called it event 202. And then we got a caravan stroke bus kind of thing, and we painted it up as the COVID Truth Tour. And we hit 27 towns all up the UK. So we went all the way up to Scotland, all the way back down Wales. And we were corralling everybody to come to the marches in London. So we were the instigators of the freedom marches that were taking place throughout 2020, 2021, and even into 2022, when it all kind of then dissipated and sort of fell away. But from going around the country, not just on the COVID Truth Tour in 2020, but then after that, we were going around to all the different towns and cities, still giving talks, handing out leaflets, trying to wake people up and inform people, the ordinary people out there. It became very obvious to me early on that a lot of people weren't taking action or speaking up or speaking out because there was a fear there in relation to their financial position or their circumstances. If you speak up, you lose your job. If you lose your job, you lose your house. If you lose your house, you lose your family, and it goes into that kind of cycle. So for me, I wanted to develop something, a community where we could all come together, be strengthened and empowered by the knowledge and experiences that we could all share, but then to create our own society that will allow us or enable us to slowly withdraw or come away from this debt-based slavery system that we all find ourselves in. So that's really what ETP is based on. It's an educational platform, but it's more than that. It's a community. It's people who come together regularly to affect change, not just on an individual level, but on a community level. And it is a charitable platform. Nobody makes profit. It's run by trustees, but everything belongs to the members themselves. We are regulated, by the members. We're held accountable by the members. We have to report to the members. We have to be transparent with the members. So there's nothing that we can't just take funds and put them into our own bank account. The association has its own bank account. Everything's accounted for. Everything is recorded. Everything is reported on. So but the whole point is that there has to be a steward or some form of management organization to it. Otherwise, it will all fall apart. So us as trustees, I just call us like the rudder of the ship, but effectively the ship belongs to the members and everything within it belongs to the members. And the idea, like I say, is to empower people. But ultimately, if there is a surplus of funds, not a profit, we don't call it a profit because we're not a corporate entity trying to make profit. But if there are surpluses at the end of every year, those surpluses go into community projects that our members put forward. So, you might be working on an initiative yourself. It might be to do with food security or homeschooling or medicine, real natural medicine, holistic therapies, for example, and you could put that forward, those projects forward to the ETP members for them to vote on, to put the funds to them. And the idea is that slowly, with the funds that we bring in, the community, we can support community endeavors that then enable us to create the societies that we want and put the infrastructure in place that we need to create those societies. So that's it in a nutshell. Before I woke up, if you're interested, I was working in the city. I was an investment surveyor. I'm not, I didn't wake up and go on the streets because I want a name for myself or I want fame or anything like that. I just saw the urgency and the need for us to all stand up and do something about what we're seeing, right? So, and as a result of that, I did lose my job. I was on a very good salary working in the city every day, and I lost that in the September 2020, and that's what then propelled me into developing Empower the People. So that's it in a nutshell. Of course, if anybody's got any questions or anything, you're more than welcome to ask.
Thank you, Simon. That's brilliant. Thank you for the introduction. Mr. Spaniard,
Hello.
I'll introduce you about I Am as well, what we do. That'd be wonderful. Thank you, Simone.
Okay. Well, look, I was a banker, so I started off my career back in 1987, working with Coutts and Co. up in London. And the reason that I elected to take that job was because they were offering the most money. £6,300 was my annual salary back in 1987. A massive. I used to net 300 quid a month after travel. And that was the biggest pay that was on offer. I think most of the rest were 5.5 or 5.8, I think, from NatWest, someone like that. But anyhow, so I started off there and I quickly moved into, I didn't realize it at the time, but after 2 years having got nowhere, no promotion or anything like that, I decided to leave and I went on to a management training program with an American retail finance bank. I didn't realize it was American retail finance, i.e. very salesy. I didn't realize that at all. I thought I was going into another bank. But I soon went into this American owned company, which was pretty much double my salary. So for me, it was massive, and I was working locally. And I hated it. I hated every single minute of it, I've got to be honest, because we were responsible not only for selling stuff and hitting targets. I suddenly had targets. So we had to hit targets, but not only that, we had to collect the money back. If people weren't paying, I had to go and knock on doors and stuff like that. I hated it, absolutely hated it. The problem was that back then, by the time 1990 came along, I had a girlfriend, we had a flat, I had a mortgage, I was stuffed. And in order to try to change career or career path, it meant, or it would have meant, going back down to a pittance of a salary. I couldn't afford it, so I was stuck. Now, I did make various attempts to leave. I mean, I was accepted into the army when I was fighting to try and get onto the management program. I was accepted into the British Army as an officer, which meant that wherever I served, I would have 40 squaddies under my control and command. And I made the argument to my bosses at the bank when I resigned, and they said, or when I said I'm going to be leaving, and they said, well, hold on, why? And I said, well, I've been accepted into the British Army, life or death situation. I'm going to have 40 squaddies under my control and command wherever I go. You won't even trust me with a team of 3. What's that all about? Anyhow, they persuaded me to stay, but didn't give me what it ended up being a complete lie. Constantly the carrot or the stick. That's how they used to manage their staff. I was accepted into the police, But that didn't come about because they phoned me up, told me to resign there and then without an offer letter, and I refused to do it. So they said, fine, you can go back to the beginning then. But I was accepted as a copper. I was also accepted into the prison service, Bulwood Hall, the ladies' prison. Went there for my interview and got quite a bit of abuse from some of the women as I walked in, and I thought better of it. I decided not to go for that in the end, and I just stayed with banking. In the end, I left banking in 1999 and I moved over to Ireland for love with a girlfriend. And once she spent all my money, that was it. She didn't want to know anymore. So I came back with my tail between my legs, having spent my last or my the 20 grand that I'd made from the house sale from when I split up with my wife, um, and moved out there. It wasn't because of her that I split up with my wife, by the way. I split up with my wife, ended up, living with a mate, met this girl, moved out to Ireland, left banking. Then I decided to come back and I walked into mortgage broking and I ended up heading up as head of operations. I headed up an organization in Southend which was trading as easy loans. So it was very much like Ocean Finance that you would have seen advertised on telly at on Channel 4 midway through the day. That's what we did. It was predominantly secured loan finance, second mortgages. And I was head of operations. So I ended up having 70 staff under my control. Um, After I took control, we kind of increased productivity within 3 months. We increased productivity over 300% within 3 months just by changing some of the processes because I was so used to the way that the processes were supposed to work, and these brokers didn't have a Scooby-Doo. Um, but then I was having once the boss sold the company for 26 million, by the way, to London Scottish Bank. Um, he'd made me the offer that he would always set me up in my own organization. So I took him up on the offer and I went and set up my own broking firm, and then had a I caught the my co-director and his family pilfering from or with hands in the till, and I refused to work with them any further. I lost about 500,000 on that deal because the plan was to always build the company up, sell it just like my boss had done, and then retire early. That's what I wanted to do. So I lost about 500,000 on that deal, and I set up another organization. Which was slowly building up until something called the credit crunch hit in 2007 and wiped me out. And within a month or so, I lost all my staff, had to let them go, had nowhere to put business, tried to turn the company into, I wasn't sure what was really going on with the market at the time. So second mortgage market had been shot to shit, technical term. Tried to move it into first mortgage business, didn't really work. Tried to turn the company into a claims management company, and that was where I first started looking at unenforceable credit agreements because we were arguing things like PPI, doing PPI claims. We were looking at unenforceable credit agreements, Section 60, 61 of Consumer Credit Act, so that's as it stood at that time, albeit the fact the 1983 Consumer Credit Amendment Act had put pay to Section 60 and 61 and had brought in Section 140, which was unfair relationships. And so we were using some of these arguments to basically go back to my database of clients in secured lending and secured broking to go back to them and say, hey, I know we placed you for business with XYZ company. How do you fancy arguing the agreement? And we were trying to drum up business on a no-win, no-fee basis at that time. But it was very difficult because the banks were basically lying to us, and I caught the banks out on many lies, and that's what kind of sent me down this rabbit hole per se and got me into all of this, because in realizing that the banks were quite prepared to lie to your face and deny having ever paid us commissions, even though I had their brochures which offered commissions, I had our bank statements which showed commissions being paid. It was a case of, well, how can they lie? How can they lie like that? It's so blatant. What's going on? That sent us on a little bit of a research jaunt, as it were, myself and my business partner at the time. Excuse me, at the time, called Dave, and we happened upon a presentation about money of exchange, money of substance, money of account. And whilst I couldn't fully resonate on it, I could just sense that there was something not right. And that's basically it. That led me on this path. Now, myself, Dave, and my brother, were basically, we became a little bit of a trio investigating some of this stuff. And we ended up seeing, I think it was one of the only videos online at that time, which was from Robert Arthur Menard. I had Robert Arthur Menard on Red Pill Day, some of you may recall if you saw it. But Robert Arthur Menard, who to me was just like absolutely awesome, the way that he could not control, sorry, command an audience, and the way that he spoke and the words that he used. It was just, he was so charismatic. I just thought, you know what, I'd love to be like this guy. It was just awe-inspiring. And underneath the video, there was some write-up, and one or two people were talking, and we got invited to meet this guy down in Kent. And actually, he was working with the guys who were promoting the Winston Shrout seminars over here. So we ended up going to the UK version of the Winston Shrout seminars and met Vinny and Dom, if anyone remembers those names or is familiar with those names. And that was basically it. From in 2008, 2009, I'd met maybe about 70 people on those seminars. Okay, they were like 500 quid a pop on a Saturday. Some of them were 2-day events. I'd only actually attended, I think it was 3 or 4, and I was hungry for hungry for more information, but hungry to be getting involved and to try things out and bounce ideas off of people. And just attending a seminar wasn't enough for me. So I reached out to a number of people that I'd connected with and got their email addresses on these events. And I said, look, how do you fancy all meeting up ourselves? We don't have to wait for the boys to throw a seminar. We'll meet up ourselves and we can talk about this kind of stuff, and we can exchange ideas and see what we've been getting up to. And, and 43 people responded. So there were 44 of us, and White Rabbit was born from those 44. That was White Rabbit. And I used to coordinate it, host the events. As one or two people said to me, we look at you as the leader, Si. And I said, well, I don't want to be a leader because you're all leaders, right? That's what you're supposed to all be, leaders. But because I was kind of organizing it all, that's the kind of viewpoint or perspective that they had. And then, of course, come 2010 time, 2009, 2010, I started doing interviews online with Ben Lowry. I wouldn't say they're the best interviews, but certainly I was trying to put across what I'd learned. And meanwhile, still studying and still practicing and playing with certain things. I had my own troubles to deal with because finance industry was shot to shit. I had no job. I was living from credit cards, using credit cards to support myself, hoping that something would come along. I mean, I actually made over 600 job applications during that time, trying to get a job. And eventually, come 2011, in fact, April 2011, I'd resigned myself to the fact that it wasn't going to happen job-wise. And I did my very first seminar. And I thought, you know what? This is where it's got to be. This is where I've got to be. I've got to be out there teaching people. And now, Simone mentioned about, pursuit of fame and all this kind of stuff. Let me tell you, when I was sitting in my home office, which is basically a desk in a room. I was basically sitting in my home office, and I'd just read the Magna Carta, and so I'd had a little bit of a revelational moment. As you do, you have lots of revelational moments in this game. And something struck a chord with me, and I asked myself mentally the question, are you going to just keep this information to yourself and use it for your own benefit, which I could have done, or are you going to put your head above the parapet and start putting it out there? And I immediately answered, well, of course, I've got to put it out there. I've got to warn people, right? I've got to warn people. And I immediately was bawling my eyes out. I was crying my eyes out because back then, to my knowledge, there were 70 of us in this country that knew this stuff or were aware of the straw man. 70. I mean, imagine it now. There's millions now, right, in this country. But back then, there were 70 of us, and there were 44 of us in our crew, okay, widely dispersed. And some of them were from overseas. So if you feel scared now, imagine how I felt back then, if you can. And so what was running through my mind was, if I put my head above the parapet, am I going to get killed? Because I felt that there was a real chance you could be, right? Nowadays, no, not a chance. But back then, I didn't know. And yet I still made the instant decision that I had to put the information out there. And hey presto, having done some of those interviews with Ben Lowry, I then started putting my very amateur videos up on White Rabbit Trust YouTube channel. Obviously, some of them are absolutely amazing nowadays with the effects and the Hollywood clips that I bung in there. But obviously, back then they were completely crap, right? Because I didn't know what I was doing or how to use Windows Movie Maker. All right, and so what happened is that I have very few tech skills. I'm pretty useless at tech, and I've got better over time. But I certainly back then had no skills whatsoever, and it's still arguable that I haven't got great skills now. But as time progressed, I had no website. I was doing meetings up and down the country, repeating the same stuff that I was doing time and time and time again, and I just became stagnant. Come 2015, I was fed up with it. I'd been spiked at a meeting. I did get spiked with something equivalent to Rohypnol, and so doing face-to-face meetings was becoming risky. And I met Mark, and Mark was I think the 20th person to actually say to me, well, he actually said, "Do you want any help?" And I said, "Yeah, I can do with some help, please," because he was an IT bod. I said, "I need a website." And he basically said, "Well, I'm not going to build it for you. I'll teach you how to build it. And in that way, you're skilled up and you know how to do it." And that's what we did. And that's how You and Your Cash was born, as a kind of more mainstreamy version of White Rabbit, because we wanted it to look more mainstream, wanted it to be appeal to more people, and have a kind of a kind of plain outlet. We didn't want it to look too edgy, you know. I mean, it is a bit edgy, but it's not as edgy as White Rabbit was. I mean, White Rabbit, some of the videos I used to put out and the phone calls I used to make and this, that, and the other, which a lot of people really liked, where I was really causing some trouble and shaking things up. That really did kind of ruffle a few feathers. Um, but that's basically the story. And then come to 2022, when Simone got in contact and invited me to come and make available some of the course material, some of the solutions that had been developed, and make them available over ETP. Well, yeah, I was all up for it. And of course, the rest is kind of history for a lot of people. There was a falling out in July 2022. We won't say too much about that because it's going through Crown Court as we speak, where we're prosecuting. And of course, yes, a lot of videos have then been taken. I've taken a lot of videos down off of YouTube because of the way that people have been behaving. So I don't reward poor behavior. Funnily enough, I chastise bad behavior, and the videos have now moved behind protective security walls over at whiterabbittrust.org and youandyourcash.com. And that's basically it. And here we are.
That's in a nutshell.
Sorry, I hope I didn't go for too long there.
No, thanks, Simon. Appreciate you that. I mean, people know of You and Your Cash, they know of ETP, and a lot of people now know of I Am as well. I mean, we met, not the best ways we met, but I mean, I met Simone back in, was it 2020? I think it was. We sat around table. That's when I met Woody as well. And we sat around table with some, as I now class them, with some nefarious characters in there. But this whole thing has been a whole hell of a journey. I mean, my journey, I'm not going to go down the whole road of that, but when I think of how I started, I went down the common law route. Yeah, common law is great for everyone, and then soon realizing that there's other ways around things. So I started off with practical lawful dissent with that group there, and then rapidly came out and obviously met Simone we sat around the table. I sat there listening to Woody, my jaw hit the floor and went, I think I've got a bromance going on. No, because the guy's knowledge was phenomenal. And the journey I've had along the way, as we know, I mean, Simon did as I class as a hit piece on me, following something I got involved in, but I ultimately stuck my hand up and said, yeah, I've made a mistake. Contacted Simon after hearing Woody's kind advice, contacted Simon, and this is where we are now. I think
unity.
Yeah, it's about bringing people together now. It's about Not the fact that ETP's got better processes than us. Yeah, they have, most probably have, but it's not down that way. It's about saying what can we all do together to bring people together. And for me, it's as Jen said, it's about unity, and that's where we have to come from. But unfortunately, there's too much division out there currently, I see, and it's going down the path of ego-led. I want the biggest followers going. I want glory, fame, and exactly.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's where I see a lot of people going. And obviously, the reason we brought you on here today was not only to talk about what's been going on with a certain person, which I'm sure we'll get into, but it's also to let people know there are other alternatives out there. And that's what I love about this, is the fact that we came up to your Unity Summit. We sat there and I think you're a little bit starstruck at one point.
I was, yeah, definitely. Sorry.
Kirsty's laughing another one. But for us, we don't have the skill sets that the two of you got. Well, we have a very lower skill set, but we're trying to empower people more. We're trying to get people to know the fact you shouldn't be following anybody. You shouldn't be doing this process unless you know realistically who you are. Because if you don't know who you are inside, then you're on a hiding to nothing.
What's the point?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we pick up a lot of people in the community who've gone down the road of following other groups and following other processes that looks good because it's a turd rolled in gold. But unfortunately, it's getting them into a lot of trouble. I mean, the people we're now seeing that have charges on their properties, they're now losing their properties. They've had their gas and electric ripped out the properties because they followed certain groups. And it's heartbreaking to see, but I still automatically see as well that's part of their journey as well. They've got to find their own way. So go on, Jen.
But I do have to fit in that no matter which way you look, no matter which scenario you look at, unity is the only answer.
Yeah,
End of. It is.
I mean, one second,
I was going to. Yeah,
sorry. I'll just finish up. So basically, the whole idea of this today is there's a lot of in the way I see it, there's a lot of doubt about Simon. There's a lot of doubt about Simone. There's a lot of doubt about us. There's a lot's going on out there. Let's be honest about it. And I think it's time for people to. I think a lot of it, and this is for the record straight. This comes back to what Woody said. It's about stop thinking about the personality. Think about what experience they can bring. And for me, that's where it comes from. Because if we drop these, we all know the personalities. I mean, Simon's named hundreds of them, but it's got to stop. We've got to start bringing people together. So for me, it's a question of I welcome and I'm totally grateful to you guys coming on here today, and I'm grateful for Jen setting this up. And I think this is great where we can all start working together. So what I would suggest before we get going, guys, if anybody's got any questions, please use the raise your hand feature because that way we can monitor it.
Wanted to say something. She's busy playing with her.
Shush.
He's hungry. That's what it is. He wants his food.
You're about to say. Obviously, we'll monitor the chat as well. So if you've got questions, drop them in there as well. I mean, Simon, Simone are co-hosts on this as well, so they can answer questions. So if anybody can help answer questions as well, because obviously I'm going to be tapping away going there. But where do you guys want to start?
Well, you just mentioned about unity, right? And I think that you're absolutely right. Unity is key, right? For all of us, we do need to be, you can't do this alone. You need to be in connection and with a community, with other folks that understand what we're all going through and how to get out of this, right? Or do things together. But my question would be is, do we all want unity with people that aren't necessarily on the same wavelength or who are doing things to harm others? Does unity mean that we need to compromise our core values, right? And maybe that's a question for others here on the meeting today. I mean, what do you guys think as members of respective communities? Yes, unity is expected between us, but do we compromise with us that might not necessarily be, might not necessarily be going in the same direction as us?
Can I add into that?
Probably why we go through what we go through with certain people, so we can find the correct people that we resonate with and we're on the same vibrations and
I'm aligned with.
yeah.
Sorry, Simon.
I was going to say, let's put it this way, right? Let's imagine a lot of people will see the, you get a lot of people saying that we want to tear that system down. We don't want that system. Look, in the first instance, the system doesn't actually exist, right? So what is the system? What is a system? What's any system? Any system is just a means by which people are actually interacting. It's the conceptual structure by which people interact. So actually at the heart of any system is not this nasty big system, it's actually people, right? There are people behind it, there are people in it, there are people controlling it, working it, operating it, delivering it. So actually it's people. Now, if you've got a problem with the system, then you've got a problem with people. So the question is it people that are in, and we know this, it's people in that mindset. They're in a mindset of imposing this system because they believe they have the right to do so. So we could say that we've got a problem with those who are carrying out the role of public servant, but people oppressor. And that's what we've maybe got the problem with. But it's more than that, because I want you to imagine what's going to happen if we achieve this kind of unified goal of let's get rid of this system. Okay? So we've got this society as it is right now, and we get rid of the system. There's no system. Okay. Now, what does society look like? You see, I've gone. Well, you see, this is the thing, right? What
There'll just be gangs everywhere.
Correct. Well, I think you're right. And now I saw this on a history program. This was actually on Amazon, right? I think it was Amazon or Netflix. There was a history program, and it was talking about the clans of Scotland. Okay, and this is a historian. This wasn't a truth movement presentation or production. This was a mainstream history presentation where this guy said the clans of Scotland were effectively gangs. Just like the film Gangs of New York with Leonardo DiCaprio, they were gangs, and they each effectively ran a protection racket in their locale. Okay, so you're going to have the clans. They can tell who's wearing what. You've got the, what are they called? You've got the Bloods and the this, and you've got the Blues and the Reds, and you've got the, the guys with a certain type of tartan, and the others with a different color tartan, and blah, 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 blah. And that's how they identify themselves. But in effect, what you had were mini protection rackets being run in gangs. And that, I would suggest, is what you're going to end up with, because I've had the scenario with people in the truth movement right now where I have confronted poor behavior, the behavior being that a number of parties came to you and your cash after 2020 and raped and pillaged my website. I mean, bought courses, took the course material and replicated it. If not, and when I mean replicate, I mean they copied it and put it out there. For example, Paul Yates, his book, that's my course. I'm quite happy to make that a public statement. I've made it multiple times on Facebook. He won't sue me. I've asked for his address so I can sue him and we can discuss it in court. He's run off. He's left the country after I confronted him. He went sailing off, right? He won't give me an address for service of legal paperwork. So he doesn't want to discuss it, right? Funnily enough, Peter Wilson, exactly the same. My documents are in his courses. I recognize my documents because when you create a document, it's like your little baby. So I'm going to say to you, would you recognize your children, even if they were dressed up and disguised in a Halloween costume or something? Would you recognize your kids? Because I tell you what, I recognize my little babies that I created. I recognize the wording, the layout, and everything that goes along with it. And I sure as hell recognize my documentation when it appears in someone else's coursework. So when these things happened, I confronted these people and I went to them directly. Nicely at first, and then when they try to take the piss or try to deny what is plainly obvious, then I'm not so nice. Okay? Especially when they turn around publicly, in the case of Peter Wilson, and starts making the Fagin jibes. Fagin was the guy out of Oliver, a Jewish thief. I've got a Jewish surname.
I remember that.
Where then we have the situation of Paul Yates, who tries to accuse me of being some narcissist or sociopath because I'm calling him out, which is always what people fall back to. They always have to accuse someone of being a narcissist or a sociopath because you're calling them out. I call out poor behavior. Why? Because if we come back to what I said at the beginning, which is what's this new society going to look like? And Simone touched on it. Okay. A new society is going to have to rely. We keep hearing about equity. What we're actually talking about is not the equity that they offer us from the system, which is determined by a judge who apparently is delivering or making his determinations based on the conscience which was delegated to him by the Lord Chancellor, which in turn was delegated to him by the Queen, or as it is now, the King. The king's conscience. How can you delegate that down rows of people and then expect the same king's conscience, assuming the king is wise, to be delivered to the people? You can't. So it's not that equity that we seek. What we seek is natural equity. Natural equity is founded in scripture. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That is natural equity, right?
Yeah.
Love thy
Yeah.
brother as yourself. Okay.
Mhm.
That's natural equity. Okay. So would you be able to trust, if we're going to talk about natural equity and trust, would you be able to trust someone that has stolen from you?
No.
And when
Definitely.
confronted, as per Matthew 5:25, go to thine adversary quickly. I think it's Matthew 5:25, if I quoted that correctly. Go to thine adversary quickly, lest he place you before the magistrate or take you to court and you try and iron it out. And they don't want to know, they tell you where to go, or they get abusive with you as they have done with me. So I've followed scripture, I've tried to approach these people, and it was no good. It had no effect. So I go public with it, or I go to court, which is all you can do.
Mhm.
So if you can't trust these people, the chances are they're going to steal from you. If you try to talk with them and they're not going to have it, well, now what are you going to do? We've got no system, we've torn it down. How are you going to get your remedy? Are these
Mhm.
people going to come to a court if you convene one? I'll wager not. So where's your remedy? The point is, unfortunately, you tear the system down, you got no remedy unless you're prepared to go mob-handed with a hammer and go get your remedy. Now, is that what you want? Is that what people want? Because it then becomes back to now you're going to have the gangs. Now you're going to
Mhm.
have protection
Dead.
rackets. Okay. So that's my little piece. I think we've got a question there
Yeah, go for it,
from
Woody. If you'd
Woody.
like to unmute yourself, Woody, and far away, young man.
Hey, I'm on my phone, so I'm not sure if this is working right. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Woody. Oh, it's muted. You're muted again, Woody.
We either see you or hear you.
That's it. No, he's muted again. Oh, he's unmuted.
I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm on my phone, so apologies for this. Yeah, I just this little thing that Simon's talking about here, and it's something that I saw round about the time when all the nonsense were going off 2 and a bit years ago. And it became clear to me over that probably the rest of that year, the back end of 2022, that there was a distinct split happening through with all the groups, that you got people of conscience and you've got people of ego, and it really is as simple as that. And those who are people of ego, people with ego, it appeals to them. And this is why people with a personality such as, so I'll name her, it's someone you and I both know, Andy, and Simone as well, and that's Jill, Carly Spell. She is incredibly egotistical, but she's comes across as down to earth. She claims that she went to law school, although I'd love to know which law school that is. After seeing one of the documents that she produced for somebody recently, it was like reading Sam I Am, Dr. Zeus. I am Sam, Sam I am because I am Sam, Sam I am. And this is the kind of gobbledygook that I've seen in their documents. This is people who are not doing things the way that Simon and Simone do. Simon and Simone are using the system and using the tools within the system. These other
One foot in,
people
one foot out.
behave from a position of anger and belligerence, and they go on the attack, shouting and all kinds of absolute nonsense out there. I mean, there's some of the stuff that I've seen that being said about Simon. It's like, oh dear, these people they are so bad in their lack of knowledge that they think it's okay to go and make outlandish racist claims against people without really knowing what they're talking about and think that they can get away with it. Now, we've all seen reports of people being arrested for their conduct on social media. Hello, these aren't the brightest people in the box. And as far as this split, why should we try to stop the split? For me, this is about focusing on ourselves, not on these other nefarious characters. Now,
Right.
I'm not saying don't defend, which, you know, Simon's been put in a position where he has to defend against some of these characters. I'm not saying we shouldn't be on the defensive and then seek justice, but we shouldn't really concern ourselves too much with what they're doing, even though they're bringing people problems, because at some point, the people that they're bringing problems to, the decent people out there, they're going to encounter one of us. At some point, they will encounter one of us, and they will be encouraged to seek real remedies rather than bullshittery remedies. I'm an expert in bullshittery remedies. I've peddled quite a few in my time, and there's some of these things, some of the things that I've done over the years. I know it's not what I'm doing; it's the man who's doing it that makes the difference. And the mindset that I've got and the ability I've got to be able to pick holes in somebody else's argument. So I know it's me that makes the difference in the methods that I've used over the years, and they're really not transferable for other people. Whereas what you learn through YAYC, and I know through Andy with you and with I Am Community, and obviously with Simone and with ETP, which I'm very familiar with, what's being taught there are things that anybody can learn as long as they've got the right state of mind and the right center. If you're looking for belligerence and to try and beat somebody up or whatever, then for me, you're not part of the conscious community. And that's what I see happening. That's what I see within I Am. It's what I see at YAYC from the members that I know there. And it's what I see within ETP. And for all the dreams and ambitions, it seems to me like these other groups, there's an awful lot of hot air and noise out there and not a lot of substance. There really isn't much substance. Where you've got somebody recently has been trying to have a pop at Cy and Simone, and the gobbledygook that they're coming out with, it's just ridiculous. There is no substance to it. These people peddle nothing but logical fallacies. And that's the common theme for me, is when you see the arguments that are put forward by a lot of people, they are deep rooted in logical fallacies. Now, if you've studied logical fallacies, you understand them, and you know a little bit about the trivium. They are so easy to pick apart because all they are smoke screens to distract you from the point at hand. We had one recently on ETP when somebody decided to try and have a chew at me about something, and all I asked were, I've told you already about this particular thing that you're talking about. I will happily go and learn it tomorrow if you can bring me evidence of its success. And he trotted out several logical fallacies. Oh, the guy who invented it was wonderful, brilliant. Show me the evidence that it works. Then another distraction. Great, brilliant. Show me the evidence it works. The guy didn't get the point. Now, these guys that are out there in these other groups, listening to these people who make a lot of noise, they don't have the wit or understanding to ask questions in the way that, say, Simon, Simone, myself, quite a few of the guys that I've seen on this meeting today, G-Man, Gerard, Mo, you know, you two stick in my mind because, and Mark, you try and get these guys know their onions. They seriously know their stuff. And the fact that, for me, this is another endorsement, the fact that these people are members of ETP, and I consider them brothers. These are people of conscience. Yes, serious intelligence, serious wit, but also people of conscience. There are some out there that are intelligent people, but unfortunately, their motivations are about lining their pockets What did we hear Simone mention earlier on about ETP, that it's a charitable platform? And this is, if we should be looking after our brother and sister, and those people who are out there who are not ready for us yet. They're really not. If they're still stuck in the ego trap, they're not ready for conscience. And do we want to waste our energy turning these people around, or do we let it come to them? Let them come to us when they're ready for it. There's the old adage that when the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
Yeah.
And I do see it, that I know one of the things that's been happening recently with ETP, that a lot of members have joined who've been hard done by some of these more nefarious characters out there. If that's what we have to do, we mop up. Yes, prevention's better than cure. But surely this is all positive stuff as far as, yeah, okay, you've been burned by somebody else. We'll still look after you and treat you as a brother or sister. Now, for me, that's the energy that we should be carrying. And deal with the way that Simon's dealing with some of these characters out there at the moment. I just think is incredibly admirable. You know, that being that man who's standing in the middle when there's a meme out there at the moment where there's a meme with a man with about 1 million people in a crowd around him, and a guy standing there saying, "Yeah, you're all wrong." I see that as being Simon, and I see that as being a lot of others of us as well, that we aren't afraid of saying, no, you're wrong, because we're speaking the truth. And if this is a truth community, do we make it about morality? Do we make it about truth? I'm quite happy for that discussion. But for me, it comes back to ethics and morals, and we've got to have those higher standards that I know Si spoke about on a few videos. We have to have those higher standards. Is that not one of the catch lines for YAYC, Simon?
It is, because standards matter. That was our catch line from day one.
Absolutely, standards do matter, and I feel privileged and blessed to be connected with people like the members within ETP, Andy and Jen, Si and Simone. You know that I cannot believe the level of quality of the people that surround me now, but maybe that's because of I've got a level of quality as well.
That's the consciousness in us all. What I see going on, Woody, is like we're all going through an individual sieving process of old friends, family, etc., that drop away. But we're also going through a community sieving process as well.
Absolutely, Jen. And for me, that's many are called, but few are chosen. It is a line from scripture that I know. I'm sure Simone will know what that line is, exactly where it sits in scripture. But it's just a line I remember because it speaks to me. And many are called, and few are chosen, because only few have got that righteous heart.
Yes.
And these are people of conscience, as far as I'm concerned. So that's me done speaking for now. I'm going to pass it. Thanks for that, Andy.
Can we throw
Thanks,
a
Woody.
couple of questions at Simon and Simone, actually?
Yeah, I think
go for it.
Oh, I think one of the first ones on it, right, is obviously when Simon and I we did our little video together. Was it about 18 months ago, something like that, when we got together on Zoom and put things to bed. And one of the first questions I think got in there, because once I dropped the fact that you're just a pit bull, that's all I saw you as. Simon thought, oh, he's a narcissistic pit bull, but he wasn't. I mean, this guy's absolutely amazing. But one of the questions I asked you was,
but apparently pit bulls are cute.
Well, I won't go that far with him.
When they're puppies.
They're like children. Yeah, they're made for looking at children, aren't they?
Just looking at the chat, he wears stilettos as well, so I'm not going to go down that road.
We're spreading rumours.
But one of the questions I did ask you was, who the hell made you the sheriff of the truth movement?
Right, good
I
question.
loved your response on that one when you came to that one.
Well, and the answer I gave at the time was the people doing it. Well, in fact, actually, two sets of people, two groups of people. The people actually perpetrating the wrong, and everyone else for not doing their jobs, because everyone's job is to conduct due diligence. That's your job, right? Now, I appreciate people may not be used to conducting due diligence and may not be used to, or may feel embarrassed about asking questions like, have you done this before? We all want, I know what I say human nature. I don't like the word human because it's not man. We know what's in our nature. Our nature is that we want, when someone's presenting something and it sounds great, the old thing, it's too good to be true, but we want it to be true. Right? Of course we do. And there are some things actually in this movement, there are some things which are akin to miracles, which are true, right? And can actually work and can be made to work and can get you results. There are some things which are out of the ordinary, which can be done. All right. But when we wake up to the lie that's over there and we come over into the truth movement, the presumption is that everyone in the truth movement is speaking the truth and is speaking from experience, or wouldn't rip you off. They wouldn't do that. They wouldn't lie to you. They wouldn't scam you, because this is the truth movement. The label is the truth movement. They wouldn't do that. But unfortunately, they do. And people need to be able to disseminate between those that are actually speaking from a position of A, experience, and B, where they've actually done this and they've proven that it works, and C, from honesty and integrity. Right now, I know it's difficult. It is difficult, right? It's not an easy task to know, especially with subject matter that you're not familiar with. Some of it's going to sound like, I know from when I was first hearing some of this, you see the truth in it with the straw man, but you don't fully resonate, you don't fully understand it or how it really works. So part of you is actually at a disadvantage because you don't know the subject matter, right? It's like if someone said to you, and this car will fly. No wings, it will fly. You know enough, we know enough that, well, you're going to need wings to fly, or it's going to have to be rocket propelled in order to jettison this thing off. So you know that most cars are not going to be affordable if they apparently can fly, right? You're going to have something really special. So you'll know that that's probably bullshit. But with this subject matter, you don't know. And so that holds you back to some extent. But there are things that you can demand to see, right? Proof of, successes, letters and stuff like that. But that aside, you know, who else is going to do the job? When I was in banking, funnily enough, my nickname was Pitbull as a debt collector. And in fact, my bosses called me Pitbull. Rottweiler, that didn't really stick. Pitbull was the one that kind of stuck. But also one of my bosses called me Stripe. That was the leader of the Gremlins when he went bad, because my boss used to say I always looked like I was up to something, and that's what he used to say, right? So, but one thing he did say was that he said to me, he actually said, "Si," he goes, "your team would follow you over the top in World War One. Your team would have followed you over the top in World War One." Now, I don't know whether he was making a pop saying that I should have been gunned down because I didn't get on very well with that boss, or whether he was saying that the ability to gel a team together and get that kind of backs to the wall kind of mentality. Because believe it or not, when I was at work in the bank, I called out other managers for not complying with policy. Why did I call them out? Because what used to happen was we all had our own area. And if someone went into a shop in another area, but they lived in my area, that other branch would write the business and get the credit for it, and they'd get the bonus for it. But I would be transferred the account and I'd have to collect it. And a lot of branch managers, what they would do is they would break the rules and they would approve loans which were effectively a pile of crap on the book. In that mentality, there's no way you think they're going to pay you back. It breaks the policy, and you just think, why have you approved this loan? I'm now going to have to collect this pile of crap, right? And it's causing me work, and it's going to adversely affect my team on bonus, because if I don't hit my collections targets, my debt recovery targets, my team lose out. And so to protect my team, I would put myself on the line, even to the extent where I had to resign a few times and then retract it in order to make a point with my bosses. So I was never afraid to put myself out there at the front, making the point to protect my team. And I see people out there as my team. This is the thing I've done for the longest period of time ever. If I was to think of this as a career, as a job, as a vocation, I've done this since 2007, 2008. It's outlasted every girlfriend I've ever had. It's outlasted every job I've ever had. I've done this for a longer period of time than anything, right? So to me, it means a lot to me, especially from the beginnings of when, I first put my neck on the line. So who made me God? Well, or made me the sheriff? I think Laura Nina called me God. Who made him God? Um, at the end of the day, someone has to step up to the plate and call out the bad guys. And I was never afraid of doing it. And so I've had to do it. Other people are not doing it, so I've had to do it.
And because
That's
you
what
do it, others do it.
we call it accountability, right? If
Mhm.
you're going to propose a certain way or suggest a certain way that someone is to do something, then there's got to be accountability, right? And I think, Simon, when people talk about you going out there attacking other people, number one, it wasn't always your modus operandi, right? You only started doing that when Matrix Freedom was scamming so many victims. There were so many victims there, and
Mm.
they were using your name and propagating your work effectively without your permission, and off the back of that, profiteering, scamming people. And so
Between the end of 2011, when I made my first video on YouTube, and April the 27th, I think it was, 2022, I never called out anyone,
Mm.
ever.
I mean,
And I
just
had to make a video because, as you say, Simone, Ian Stamp was using my name to sell his bullshit, and I had to make videos to distance myself from Ian Stamp. And the way
Mm.
I saw was the best way I saw of distancing myself. Partly part of the reasoning behind the videos was to bring attention to what he was doing, but to also call it out and ridicule it, because no one in their right mind could ever really think, unless they're an idiot, no one would think that I'm working with him if I'm calling him out. So I called him out to make the point, I'm not working with this guy. Don't
Mm.
believe what he's telling you, because he's using my reputation and my name to sell a scam. Sorry.
I mean, when you talk about your videos, I mean, I've been watching a lot of your videos over the last couple of years. I mean, just to get to know a bit more about you. But but it's what I've been seeing a lot of people saying recently is why is he only ever putting up negative videos, and why is he not putting up educational stuff? I mean, it all leads into thinking. Other people have said, why does he have to be so damn rude? Why does he have to be? Do you know what I mean? It's one of
Well,
those
look,
things.
well,
I know the
well,
answers to this one, but
well, look, a few
keep will
things,
come into
right?
your question in a bit.
Yeah, sure. Okay, well, look, let's talk about the videos first, right? I have over, I think it's more than 500 videos. I've had over more than 10 million hits online, okay, between both the You and Your Cash YouTube channel and the White Rabbit Trust YouTube channel, and that's since 2011. But the YouTube channel, the White Rabbit Trust YouTube channel, has been down. I've actually taken it down, and it's been down for longer than the videos have been up. Now, why? Why is that? I'll tell you why. Because people were abusing them. They were abusing them, and they were abusing me. Okay, believe it or not, I don't get a lot of abuse, but I do get some abuse. Anyone who puts their head above the parapet and
Mhm.
is
Mm-hmm.
prepared to talk about this kind of stuff is going to invite, from whatever source, whether in the truth movement or without, they're going to invite abuse. Okay, or
Mm-hmm.
people trying to be funny. They think they're being funny, or people,
Oh yes.
think they're being cocky, or they think they're being clever, or they're trying to, or which I've found more recently, you get people who they think they're going to take on a big scalp in order to actually get themselves a name, right? So they come out and they try to attack because they want, oh, look what I did. He couldn't answer that. I mean, I've even had people who in the past have actually said they wanted to have a debate because they wanted to test me, right? They wanted to test me on my knowledge of definitions of words. I'm not a dictionary. I still have to go and look up words, right? I mean, what do people think I'm not claiming to be some memory man, right? In fact, if anything, my memory is not brilliant. Okay, it used to be when I was a debt collector, I could remember conversations from 8 years prior, but because I was focused on that job. But now, and having smoked copious amounts of weed since I woke up, I've not got the best memory, but I know where to look and I'm not afraid of looking. In fact, if you see some of the law programs on TV, the lawyers are always shown as going and doing their research before a case. So you don't have to remember everything. You just have to have a general gist of stuff and know where to look. And then you do some research, right? You bring yourself up to speed in certain aspects. So part of the reason that the videos that are up are perhaps more negative is because I've taken down a lot of the informative stuff. I've taken quite a bit of it down because I'm not going to reward poor behavior, and especially with those who were just coming onto the website, getting through our security. I mean, we've had to improve security now. That's one of the reasons we've got added security now, because people were coming on and raping and pillaging the website. So not only has that increased in security, but I've taken down videos because certain parties, Carly Spell, for example, is going on taking content from one of the videos, regurgitating it and passing it off as hers, right? The exact wording. Now, I don't like that. I've got nothing against other people teaching stuff. I'm one guy. I can't teach everyone. I don't have the audience like, bloody Jay-Z or whoever, or Michael Jackson. I don't have that audience. Okay. I'm not necessarily would want that audience either, because I don't necessarily like all the attention. It's not something I wanted to do for the attention. As I say, the abuse that comes with it, I really don't like it. So, you know, there is a place for lots and lots of different teachers, and I understand from a training aspect that an audience, only certain members of an audience will resonate with a particular teacher. So there is a place and there is space for multiple teachers to teach the same thing in their own way, because different members of the audience will resonate with different explanations and different talkers and speakers and ways that it's expressed and so on and so forth. So this is not about, as some people would say, he's trying to corner the market. What am I, on Trading Places? Am I the Duke brothers or whatever? No, I'm actually, trying to make sure that the information I'm putting out there is attributable to what I've actually done, the hard effort and work I've put in, and that, if people understand and like the way that I present stuff, yeah, great. When people give you a pat on the back, it's lovely. It's nice to have a bit of motivation and people to say, well done. But by the same token, if people come on and abuse, and this leads me to the next question about why am I such a nasty guy? Well, you know what? I had people for so long say what a lovely bloke he is, blah, 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 blah. Obviously, you may or may not be aware of that with comments and testimonials and stuff like that, which we've got on our website. But at the end of the day, after a while, it wears you down. And trying to be nice to people in the face of them being offhand and outrageous to you, if that doesn't work, well, you know what? I kind of changed my mentality. And I thought, okay, well then, in which case, if you're going to treat me in a certain way, and it's a way I used to behave when I was younger, I'm going to do the same back to you, and we'll see how you like it. Now, let me give you an example. I had a girlfriend, or I've had various girlfriends in the past, right? And I had one such girlfriend, and when we used to go out, she would flirt with other people, and I didn't like it. I didn't like it. I'll be honest. I didn't like it. Who would want their partner to be out draping themselves over other blokes or flirting with other guys? So trying to, trying to talk and discuss it with her wasn't working. So what did I do? I went out. The next time we went out, I went out and I did the same. Guess what? She didn't like it. Funny that, isn't it? Isn't that funny? She didn't like me doing what she was doing, but it made the bloody point, right? It made the point. Now, okay, that was probably destined to never last. It didn't last. It was an absolute nightmare of a relationship. But the point is, I kind of got a little bit of satisfaction by making her realize how horrible that was to be on the receiving end of that. So when people come on to the website or contact me by email, or yeah, I've got away with women. So just looking at the comments. So people come onto the website or they contact me direct by whatever medium, and if they're offhand or if they burst themselves into my life, they thrust themselves into my life demanding my time. I don't even know who these people are, right? They're not even members. So they're not supporting me, but they want my support, or they want my time and attention, or they'll dump, 30 pages of document on me and say, can you just go through that and check it, make sure it's all right? You know what? I find that rude.
Yeah,
I find I believe that's rude.
I
So
agree.
they will get a short, sharp response back. If they
Mm.
get a response, depending on what mood I'm in or how many hours I've been working. For example, today I've been up since 3:30 this morning. Okay. Most days this week I've been up since 2:30, 3:30, 4:30. That's the kind of time I get up, and then I work through. My last call tonight is at 7 p.m. So I'm going to be working through till about 8 p.m. tonight. Right.
Mm.
So I work between 12 and 18 hours every day, 7 days a week, and I have done that since I woke up, because that's my work ethic.
Mhm.
Okay. So when people encroach, and it has to be my work ethic because I have so much on my plate. So when people are rude to me, yeah, hands up, I will be rude back. I'll give them a taste of their own medicine. And
Yeah.
funnily enough, they don't like it. But then what happens is they go and bleat about it online. I'm not saying that that's the right way to deal with it. Maybe it's the wrong way. But they'll bleat about it online, and what they'll omit is what they did first.
Mm.
I don't just go out and attack people, right? I don't just go and do that unless I'm calling someone out, which I've only started doing since 22, right? Ian Stamp, rightly so. He's ripped off millions from people. I reckon he's done more than 20 million by my calculations. At least
Jesus
20 million he's
Christ.
had of people, right? And he's still going. Left the country, okay, with what we were doing. So, I don't just attack people. I respond to people how they deal with me. If
Mhm.
people are nice, and most people are really lovely, so they'll get Mr. Lovely back. Yeah, I can be stressed at times. So you won't get a 5 paragraph response to an email. It might be 4 words, and I'll ping it off because I'm full tilt all day, every day, 7 days a week.
Mm.
Okay. And that's unfortunate. I wish I had, the ability to sit there and write lengthy responses and blah, blah, blah. But I just don't have that ability. I don't have that
No,
time
I agree
coupled
with
with
you on
those
that. So
demands.
jumping in there, I agree with you because that's similar to sort of days to me. Okay, I don't get up as early as you. Sometimes I do, but I'm usually at the laptop 6:30 in the morning through to about 8 o'clock at night, just
Mm,
literally doing bits and pieces, helping people out. But it's getting to the point now where a lot of people come back to me and say, "Well, why did you give me such a short response?" I don't have the time, and it's literally getting to that point now, and people just don't understand the research that we do and the work that we put in day by day by day by day. And some of
hmm
it's, like I say, it's because we're here to serve. We're here to help. And it can be very frustrating at the end of the day, especially when you get, like, say, I've had a few people, sorry, Jen, 1 second.
Sorry.
I've had a few people this week just dump loads of documents on me. Oh, I've corrected all this. Can you please read them for me? And I've gone back. My email responder is now saying, I'll get back to you in 3 to 5 days because I
But
just
you should,
literally have not got the capacity. And
but with all due respect, you should, and this is probably going to lead on to another area which people often want to point the finger and have a go, which is that you should be recompensed for that because ultimately that's your time, and time is the most valuable commodity in the universe. Okay,
Mhm.
I can prove that by reason right now. If one of you were on your deathbed and you're on your deathbed, you've got hours to live. How much would you pay for another week?
Mhm.
How much would a
Exactly.
billionaire pay for another week? How much would a,
Yeah.
Exactly.
right? So time, there's never enough time. It's a finite resource and it's the most valuable commodity in the universe. And as they say, the old saying, time is money.
Mm.
Now,
Yeah.
for people who come along and dump stuff, and I would never, let me put it this way, I have never pinged over to someone, dumped a load of paperwork on them and said, yeah, can you check that for me? Unless either we've got an arrangement or
Mm.
I've already done something in exchange or whatever, and I've got some kind of, so there's an arrangement then. But I would never have dreamed of doing that. I would never. Does anyone here ever do that with a solicitor? Just contact a solicitor out the blue, because they're qualified, right? Send them your court paperwork and say, yeah, can you do us a favor? Can you just check that for me?
Exactly.
I
Why
mean,
should you be any different?
exactly, but then there's the other argument which comes out from the truth movement.
Yeah.
And I call it the alleged truth thing because I don't believe in it whatsoever. It's a psyop. Um, why do we charge when all the information should be free? I
Okay,
mean,
great.
that's
I'm
what
glad
Because
you asked
that's
that. I
that's a
have,
go on.
that.
I've, I've waited years to answer this question, right? And it's a multi-pronged answer. Okay. Number one, the information is free. Once you the people are fortunate in as much as there are multiple videos out there. When I started in this, there were not. The only video was Bursting Bubbles of Government Deception by Robert Arthur Menard. That was it. Okay, there were no free. You could search free man on the land. You could say, oh, there was nothing. Okay, so what you've got is once you understand the concept of the straw man, that's all you need. You just need to know that. And then there are multiple law books. Go read them. Okay, because that's the information. Where do you think I get my information from? The information that I play with, okay, is a case of you've got your everyday problems, debt, car tax, normal tax, speeding tickets, parking tickets, council tax, all these problems that come against you, bills, right? Mortgages, stuff like that. You've got possible arguments, breach of contract, court cases, you're being defending, you need to sue someone. All these problems come up. Great. Okay, great. So where'd you find all that information? Is there some magic store of information? No, they're all in books, law books, right? So what you do is applying the knowledge of the straw man. If you're going to use a different kind of approach, you're either going to use the approach in their system or without their system or outside of their system, right? And so you take that perspective and you just read the books. And then what you have to do is over a period of time, and this is what I've done since 2007, 2008, is that you then put into practice some of the gameplays that you believe you've got. You either go with the main gameplays that are in the mainstream and you try some of those techniques which a lot of commentators will give you as how to approach certain things, make complaints or whatever the case may be, bring a court proceeding, express your court arguments and so on and so forth, or your claim arguments, or you come up with something different. And that's a case of trial and error. Now, I've done all that. 16 years I've been doing all this stuff, right? Plus, I spent from a very early age, I used to complain, right? So I've got multiple years' experience in complaining successfully. Biggest win I had from complaining, £62,000. Biggest win without going to court, right? 62 grand. That was a contractual argument when I was a mortgage broker, and that was against I Group, massive lender. The whole notion of, I've had to go through and practice all of this and put it into practice from however long. All right. Now, if what people are saying is that is then worth nothing, okay, the information is free, but my experience isn't. And in fact, there's an analogy out there where I think this guy, I can't remember the name of the guy, but he gives the analogy of there's a factory and one of the production machines breaks down, and they call this guy. He's an expert, right? And they say, look, how much is it going to cost to fix this machine? We just can't get this thing bloody working. We can't work out what's wrong with it. And he says £10,000. So they say, yeah, okay, great. We need this stuff working. A multi-million-pound business. Come on out. The mechanic comes out. He looks at the machine. He gets his hammer out and he just goes tap, and it works again. It's taken him 10 seconds. And they say to him, well, hold on a second. That's a bit unfair that you charged 10 grand, right? Why have you charged 10 grand? It only took you 10 seconds. And he said, yeah, great. The time is £1. The knowledge cost you £9,999 of what to do. Okay. And that's the difference, because there's nothing stopping anyone from reading books, putting in the time and the effort. There's nothing stopping anyone from taking those stuff, that what's in those books, thinking about it, coming up with some gameplays, some maneuvers, some moves, trying them out, live cases on themselves. Nothing stopping any of you doing that. Doesn't cost you a penny, but it might cost you a judgment. It might cost you an attachment against your salary. It will cost you time. And what a lot of people are not prepared to put in is the time.
I was just going to say that's basically what it all boils down to again. If you don't want to pay someone, then go and do the freaking research yourself.
Correct.
If you can't be asked to do the research, then I'm sorry, there has to be some kind of energy exchange. That is a universal law.
Absolutely. And another argument, here's another argument that I've because I've got, as I say, this is a multi-pronged answer. So I've seen some people who will say, well, hold on a second. But there's a moral, you owe me a moral duty. So I owe you a moral duty. Okay, well, let's look at this moral right? This moral duty. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's morals. Morals come from scripture. So you want me to down everything and come and work on your case because you
Exactly.
don't want to invest the time and energy and stuff like that, because you want to continue going out to work unencumbered, unhindered, unobstructed. You don't want the worry, the stress, and everything else that goes along with it. Great. So you're looking out for you, Jack, right? You're looking out for you, Jack. I'm okay, Jack. Screw Simon. Let Simon do all the work. Well, that's great. But that's because Simon owes me a moral duty. Brilliant. What about the moral duty that Jack owes to Simon to treat his neighbor as himself, right? And look after him, and treat me as a brother, and take care of me, and exchange energy with me, and be thankful for that. Because while I'm working his case, I can't go out to work to earn money because I'm working his case, and apparently I'm supposed to do this free of charge, right? Now,
Exactly.
Now, the funny
Yeah.
thing is, right, the funny thing is, in all my years of doing this and people saying it should be for free, and it's always the people that want it for free that say it should be for free. They're very moralistic about coming out and saying it should be for free. So, and I've asked these people a number of questions. The first question I ask these people is, do you work? And if they say yes, they either work or they don't. Right? This is how you break it down. They either work or they don't. If they don't work, how do they support themselves? Because they're either retired, which means that they were working and they were getting paid, and now they're retired and they're getting a pension, or they've never worked and they're just claiming benefits, which means that other people are actually paying for them. Okay. Now, I've got nothing against people on benefits. Some people need it. My adopted son is autistic. He receives benefits. He can't ever work. All right. And I'm sure people wouldn't want to be in his situation where he's got a mental age of 3. Okay, he's 26 now. I'm sure people wouldn't want that. So people are happy to be in a position where they can go out to work. He can't. Now, there are other people that claim benefits. Okay, maybe people claim benefits in this because it's a bit of a game. But if you're claiming benefits, you're getting time. You've got more time than I have. Time's the most valuable commodity in the universe. Time is money. So you've got more wealth than I have because I don't have any time. But how many of those people work for free? The funny thing is, none of them, the people that have ever pointed the finger at me, none of them work for free. Because I often put out there, if you're prepared to work for free, or are you prepared to work for free? Because if you are, I've got hundreds of people with cases that I can dump on you today. Let's put it to the test. Is there anyone on here that works for free? Because I will happily dump work on you and we'll put it to the test, right? Now, that's not me being facetious or trying to be blunt or anything like that. That's me trying to keep it real. But sorry, go on, Simone, go on, before I get going.
Well, it's not just about the individual. Like if you're actually asking somebody for assistance and you're going to them for their time and for their experience, their knowledge, right? That's you're commissioning someone to do something for you. And in the everyday world that we live in, you wouldn't expect to walk into a shop and just take something off the shelf without paying for it. You wouldn't expect to go, okay, here we've got the NHS. It's a little bit different, right? But we all we contribute into that system. But on the other side of the fees, kind of, paying for things, I think we have to also appreciate that for example, ETP, we have a membership plan, we have a subscription program, and that goes towards all the systems and software and the team, as their assistance, but all the programs, all the events that we put on, all the resources that are then available to the members, that actually you're contributing not to me, it doesn't hit my pocket. Okay, it goes to the members, right? It's you're building something together. So I'm just trying to show that actually it's not just about you're asking somebody for assistance. If you're coming into a community like this, or like I am, or like you and your cash, the membership fees that we charge, which are actually nominal, unless you want something else, that there's options there, but generally speaking, it's a nominal amount in order to keep the platform going, in order to deliver educational events continually, lots of free resources for our members, etc. So people have got to see it as not necessarily a membership subscription for themselves to access the platform. The membership subscription is a means to an end. It's a means to get for the community to get to its ultimate objectives. We've been contributing into this nefarious, dark, satanic pirate system our whole lives. For all the time that we've been working age, and paying and contributing into that system. It's about time that we contributed to what we want, right? So it's not even about us on an individual level helping an individual on an individual basis. It's a much wider community thing that we all need to get beyond, right? We need to look beyond that, because charging a membership subscription isn't to make one of the trustees richer or to make to go off and do personal things with. These contributions are to the overall aim and the objective of the community. And if you're not on board with those aims and objectives, then you shouldn't be within the community anyway.
Well, look, can I ask a question? Honest question on here. Who works on here for less than 25% of the minimum wage?
Can you ask that in a different way?
Okay. Who earns less than £2 an hour on here? Anyone? Well, because myself and Simone do. When you add up the hours we actually put in, we earn less than £2 per hour, and it's probably the same for Andy. Now, here's a second thing. ETP, as a platform, actually cost £189,000 to run in the last accounting year, which ran up to March. I think it was March, wasn't it? That's when we launched in March 22. So it actually cost £189,000 to run. So here's a question. Who pays that then? Where's that coming from? Well, now that has to come from somewhere. Now, either we find a benefactor who's a multi-millionaire who's happy to give us the funds and finance us so we can do all this stuff for free. Well, I've got to be honest with you. In 16 years, I've met some very wealthy people. A lot of people have promised stuff. None have delivered. Very few, not smaller amounts, but not in big amounts. So unfortunately, someone's got to pay for that. Now, who's going to pay for that? Well, the people that actually want the benefit of the platform should pay for it. That's the members, right? Funnily enough. Okay. Excuse me. Now, here's something else. Okay. And this is true. Way back when I started out, I used to give away certain resources. Okay. Now, if the price of something is 0, what's the value of it? The perceived value of something which is 0 is 0 because it was free. And a lot of people attach a value of nothing to it because it's free. Now, we talk about information. There's a ton of information on the internet now, all the videos that are out there, people that have found the confidence to come out and make videos and talk about X, Y, Z, blah, 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 all because of those people way back when that actually had the balls to do it when there were hardly anyone around in fear of their lives, and they actually put videos up, right? Let's say well done to them. Oh, sorry, I was one of them, wasn't I? Anyhow, so the information, there's tons of information out there, but people, again, they don't have the time to scour and test out certain things, or they're not prepared to. They want to go straight to the horse's mouth. And also, they don't necessarily see the value in it. It's like those CDs. Everyone remember the Sunday newspapers where they give away the loads of videos and loads of CDs for nothing? Who has kept all those CDs and videos and kept them in pristine condition, right? No one. You know why? Because they were free. Therefore, they have no value. I've used it to do glue and stuff like that. I've thrown them away, used them as frisbees. You know why? Because they were free. They were no value. And there you go. That's the perception of it, because it has no price. Now, the funny thing is, there are a number of people that will then say, you know what? I want Spaniard's course and it costs that. I want that for free. Why? Why do they want that course? Funnily enough, some of these courses and the information I gave away for free way back when, and yet now they didn't want it back then because I gave it to the exact same people. I gave it, in some cases, I gave it to the exact same people way back when. And they come along kicking and demanding that they have access to it now. But I gave it to them for free way back when, and they didn't use it. Why? Well, because the information was free, therefore it was valueless. Because we're in that mindset, right? Whether rightly or wrongly, whether people can't see the value in it, the fact of the matter is that from one perspective, if you don't put a price on something, you don't emphasize the value in it. And so another reason that we charge is we have to emphasize to people just how valuable this is, so that when you buy it and you exchange with us, you're going to actually handle this thing, this course, this, I say product, this information. You're going to handle it. It's going to be precious to you. You know why? Because you spent a couple of £100 on it. You're not just going to bin that out to the side and ignore it. You're going to pay attention to it. You're going to pay more attention to it because you had to pay for it. And so that's another reason. I'm telling you, that's one of the reasons we charge. That is one of the reasons. It's not the only reason, because we have to support our platform. It doesn't support itself. I don't work. Well, no. not in the system per se. I could. I've been offered jobs in that system. Right? I could have just said, you know what, all those years back, screw everyone else. I'm going to take this information. I'm going to go into private banking or into trading. I'm going to create instruments, monetize them, and I'm going to live the life of Riley over in the Bahamas. I could have done that. You're telling me people aren't doing that now? Of course they are.
Exactly.
Right? Back in 2011, I helped my mate monetize a lien for 800 grand. You're telling me I couldn't have been doing all that stuff and just kept that all to myself?
Asai, don't you have shares in some offshore what is it? What was it?
Oh, according to Laura Nonsense, yeah. Well, according to Laura Nonsense, Laura Nonsense, as Cilla Black would say. Look, let's put it this way, right? Let's address some of the allegations which have come out. If you do a Companies House search on me, you'll see there's a number of dormant companies. El Spaniardo, The Spaniard, Simon Goldberg, right?
Red Pill Day.
Why Red Pill Day? Red Pill Day is there to act as a collecting agent for the Red Pill Day crowd fund. All right, that's what that's there for. It's a crowd fund which is intended to take on the banks and prosecute the banks, which no one seems to be interested in, which I find amazing, bearing in mind everyone moans about the banks. But anyhow, another matter. The other ones are to protect my name and to stop a certain party. They were bought to stop a certain party from trading in my name. Funnily enough, Mr. Ian Stamp. So I bought all those names.
All at the same time.
All at the same time. Yeah.
And they're dormant. You don't
because
trade
they're a pain in the
anything
arse,
from there,
but
do
when
you?
you're going through it, well, no, you can't trade from them. They're dormant.
Yeah. So what about this offshore stuff that somebody's
I wish someone would show me
there?
where it is. Yes, please show me where it is.
Yeah.
And show me the bank account.
And this is the thing.
Give me the cash from the bank account. That might help me out a little bit. But no, complete rubbish, fiction, made up, baloney.
Imaginary friends.
It's like when you were saying about why do you charge? I can't count on one hand the amount of times me and Andy have had a tearful conversation that we're going to have to close I Am down. We've got so many dreams, so many manifestations going on, but we simply haven't got the time or the money to do everything that everybody wants us to do.
Yeah, well, you haven't got the time to.
Free.
You can't go out and do a full-time job and then come on and do a full-time job running a platform.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, now look, don't get me wrong. I've said it to Simone, I've said it to Mo, I've said it to, I think maybe Woody was there. I get up early because when I've got a lot on, I try to do 2 days per day. So from a working day of say 7 or 8 hours, I try to fit 2 days in to each day. That's why I get up at 2:30 or 3:30, and then I'll work through to maybe 8 or 9 because I try to knock out 2 days per day, and that way I double my week, right? Now, well, funny enough, in banking, I was the only member of staff who was given a formal warning for working too many hours. So this is not that I'm not used to doing this, and I've done this my entire career per se, right? I've never been afraid to roll up my sleeves and get down and dirty and do the work. I'm happy to do that. In fact, I used to pride myself, if banking, where I was working, was very much results driven. You had to get results, which is why I'm very much results driven now. We have to get results. It's all well and good saying do this process, do that. It has to get a result. I'm very much based on results, right? Focused on results. But way back when in banking, I hated it. I hated doing all the sales. I hated all that. And I wasn't a great salesman. I'll be honest with you. I wasn't. I could do the debt recovery. I was very good at that, but I wasn't very good at sales. But one thing I did do was I put the hours in. And so I compensated for my poor sales by working all the hours under the sun, being first in, last out, so that no one could point the finger at me and say, I worked harder than Si. It was always a case of, well, he works longer and harder than anyone else, right? And that was one thing I was used to doing. And that's what I do now. All right. But you can't, unless you're prepared to do that, you cannot do a full-time job and be available 24/7 to run a platform. You can't do it. It's impossible. Do all the research, all the testing. That doesn't equate.
For free. For free.
For free.
You
You
know,
can't do it. It's impossible. How do you eat?
Hi.
at the end of the day, I Am Community, I'm going to say it, I Am Community is paid for by our universal credit payments. What's left?
Yeah. Well, look,
What is left?
the thing
You
is,
know?
when you turn around and say to somebody else, I'll give you another example, right? I saw a post by Laura Nonsense the other day, and she said, right, she'd announced that she wanted to set up a website for free. And she asked Gavin from Sovereign Empowerment to do it. And he said, no, not unless you pay me. This is what she was reporting back. He wouldn't do it for free unless he wanted to be paid. Now, hold on a second. What's stopping her from doing it for free?
That's what I did.
Why was the first thing she did in saying, I want to set up a website for free, I want it to all be free, why was her next move to go and ask someone else to do it? Because she was not prepared to do it herself. What does that tell you? You can't eat on thin air. I'm sorry, unless you're a breatharian, but that takes years of training. Apparently, I've not seen the proof of it myself. I've not tested it myself. I don't think I could ever not eat. But there you go. The fact of the matter remains. Simone's laughing because she knows I eat like a sparrow, but she always tries to say otherwise.
Yeah.
But the point is, it can't be done. And if anyone believes it can, show me. You show me how, and I'll do it. Now, I've raised that question multiple times over the years. I've never had anyone come forward to offer their services for free, and I have never had anyone show me how that works for free. All right? Emily, do you want to say something?
Emily, go for it. Unmute yourself, lovely.
Hi. Thank you very much, everybody. I want to come in with from another direction, if I may. You heard of this. It's called the I Ching, or Book of Changes, a guide to life's turning points. And whilst I've been listening, I finally found out where to put your hand up, so I would have come in earlier. I was just guided to just open it where it felt right and ask if there's changing lines. So I don't know if anybody knows about I Ching, but I've been using it since 2006. It's really, really good if you've got a really difficult situation. This is a recurring thing. So I will read what came out, if I may. There's what's then called changing lines. Changing lines means that this is the current situation, the one I'm just reading. Then you've got additional guidance, which leads you to the place you can go to find a solution. So I shall read. So this is actually Fire Over Thunder. So this was created by ancient, this is 5,000 years old, the I Ching. So this is a Shiho biting through, which I think is appropriate. There is an obstacle into the expression of truth. Withdrawal into quietness allows the sage to moderate. So sage reads God, gateway of the divine, whatever you wish to put that in there. Unity has been broken by one who is not being true to proper principles. This may be another or an element in one's own personality or both. In any case, serious misfortune may result if the appropriate response is not made. The I Ching is very clear about what our proper action is when confronted with an obstacle of this nature. Withdrawal into contemplation and a turning over the matter to the higher power for resolution. This is a time when aggressive action or intervention can only compound the misfortune. Use your strength to clearly separate yourself from incorrectness and realign yourself with the sage. It is always our responsibility to acknowledge where something has gone wrong, but never our right to punish. The administration of justice is the sole province of the deity. The I Ching teaches us to forgive, but not to forget. This does not mean one who reveals themselves as inferior today should be regarded as such tomorrow. It means that we are wise to pay conscientious attention to the waxing and waning of truth in ourselves and others. When truth predominates, we can progress. When it is eclipsed, we are obligated to withdraw and surrender the matter to the sage. So we actually have 3 changing lines, which are the second line, the departure from truth is quite clear here. This may arouse anger and indignation. It is better to remain humble and balanced while the correction is carried out. Third line, this is an old and sticky issue. An attempt to punish will arouse hatred and resistance. In the end, there is less trouble if one withdraws. Fourth line, a correction is underway. Neither harshness nor careless relaxation is in order. Instead, persevere in a moderate and balanced fashion. The difficulties will be surmounted if you do so. So this moved us to another, which is number 26, which is mountain over heaven. Tarchu, excuse my Chinese, it's not very good. The taming power of the great. In the face of rising tension, keep still. Honor in practice what you have learned from the I Ching. A difficult and challenging time must be taken as an opportunity to express in the outer world our highest inner principles. This hexagram counsels us to keep still under pressure and embody the virtues of the I Ching. In this way, even the most arduous trials can be successfully met. Others are often tempted to test the inner strength that we have gained through study and discipline. By pushing and prodding, they hope to reveal the weakness of our connection to truth. If we allow them to do this, we are undermined and they go on unlearning and satisfied as having engineered our downfall. On the other hand, if we keep still and cling firmly to what is right, the power of the great, then eventually we can tame the negative energy and instill in others the desire to grow spiritually. It is just such challenges to our strength and character that enable us over time to embody in principle and practice the strength of the I Ching. A spiritual understanding that is not practiced under fire is without value. Only by applying our knowledge in trying situations do we come into genuine possession of it. So use these tests as opportunities to purify your thoughts and actions. By holding to what is correct in the face of pressure, you gain the strength and peace of mind of the spiritual masters. If you deviate from the path of the sage and act to punish or condemn others now, misfortune will result. Instead, meet attacks with stillness, acceptance, and fidelity to proper principles. Treat others with gentleness, patience, and forgiveness. If you're steadfast in this, good fortune will ultimately be yours.
Thank you, Emily. Thank you for that. That's nice of you. Thank you. Abdil, you got your hand up, brother? And then we're going to move it on to something that I think everyone's here.
Yes, hi. I wasn't planning to talk about the I Ching, but to me that sounds like false light. But I'd have to write a book to deconstruct what was just shared. I wanted to share this about this question of giving stuff away for free, because I have done both. I've given stuff away for free and I've charged for stuff depending on the situation and the circumstances. But it depends on what's in the heart of the giver. So if the heart of the giver is motivated to give something away for free, then that's great. But if the receiver is demanding something for free, that's slavery. So that's the distinction I wanted to draw.
Thank you.
Well said.
Absolutely, yeah. Agree.
Right, let's ramp it up a bit. Now, obviously, there's people on here I know who've approached Simon because they were dealing with Darren Norman for trusts. And when Simon came on to do a couple of talks on the IAM community, it was pretty apparent that some of the people that we knew that were writing these what I call alleged private trusts weren't up to scratch. And then I think I don't think she'll mind me saying down there, Lynn got in contact with Simon about the paper she's been doing with Darren, and Simon quite nicely stepped up and gratefully stepped in, let me have a look, see what we can do. And I think it's grown from there. I mean, Lynn's been dealing with a lot of stuff. There's been Danielle and other things, but then obviously something kicked off over Facebook with, we know this lady, Laura Nina, in really supporting Darren Norman, what he's doing. But we know slightly what's been going on. I mean, with Lynn's case, please don't tell me if I'm talking out of turn here, Lynn. The fact that not only just hers was bad, but the fact that some of her family had paid for a trust and never received anything. And I think that's the case for a lot of people, is they've paid thousands and thousands of pounds for trusts that's never been delivered. And it seems to be an ongoing theme within this movement at the moment. Everybody is claiming they can write private trust and sell it for £1,000 a go. And I think at the end of the day, what came out with what happened between you and Laura Nina it's got quite nasty. I mean, I've seen some of the comments that people have put on there, and I think, wow, this is just not right, because they're just listening to untruths, in my opinion. Would you agree?
Well, this is actually, in my opinion, Laura Nina's stuck her nose in because she's benefiting financially by introducing referrals over to Darren. So I believe strongly, and I've heard this from a few other sources, and I'm aware that Darren used to pay introduction fees to Peter Wilson. So it's not difficult to add two and two together and come up with introductory fees, which there's nothing wrong with that per se. You know, if people are supporting you and promoting you to their network, they should be rewarded in some way, shape, or form. The problem comes about where someone like Darren Norman, who, quite frankly, I've seen his trusts, so's a judge in Daniela McGee's case. In Daniela's case, the judge described the trust paperwork as worthless word soup. Now, let me just make something clear. Let me quantify. So that's the reason why Laura's got involved. I would suspect because there's a threat to her income, and it's coming from me. Right? I didn't go out to threaten her income, but as a consequence, as a side issue, as a byproduct of me calling out Darren, that's no doubt adversely affecting, or potentially adversely affecting, Laura's income, and therefore she's stepped up to protect that, and Darren, under the guise of protecting Darren, and under the guise of, I'm the nastiest thing since Dracula. You know, I mean, for example, you know, the claims that have been leveled at me are as follows, right? So for calling someone out, so and let me just say, I've called out from on technical points the trusts that he's created. So here are her arguments, right, about trusts and the technicalities of trusts. So let's think about the technicalities of trusts, right? These are her arguments. Simon's a cokehead. Simon's a paedophile. He's a woman abuser. He's a domestic abuser. He's a narcissist, a sociopath. Now I'm a psychopath. He bullies women because I threatened to sue her for what she was saying. So what else am I supposed to do? If she's saying that, what, go around with a hammer? Is that better for her? I mean, I wouldn't think she'd like that. So I threatened to sue her, which is the right thing to do if someone's defaming you. And she turned that into, now I'm bullying her. Because my surname's Goldberg, I'm now responsible for what Israel has done in the Gaza Strip, right? I'm a bankster. This is all the stuff that Simon Penton came out with when he had no argument about what he was doing way back, and he got arrested and charged, right? So, you know, these people have got nothing to actually argue about the subject matter, so they have to make it personal, right? And they have to try to attack you in that way. So let's have a look at Laura. Now, Laura messaged me on Facebook initially to say that she wasn't happy that I didn't give Darren an opportunity to rebut what Lynn and Daniela were saying. Well, you know, look, on the one hand, I didn't need to give Darren an opportunity because I saw his paperwork. There's nothing he can say that's going to actually make me change my mind about what he's doing. I've seen his paperwork. Secondly, in Daniela's case, she had a judgment. So this has been to court. Now, Darren's now claiming that he wasn't aware of the court hearing and blah, blah, blah. But this is a guy who advertises himself as a lawyer. That's a phrase that's restricted for solicitors and barristers. He's drafting trusts. That's a reserved activity, reserved for solicitors and barristers. In other words, he's passing himself off as a solicitor or a barrister. That's called fraud. Okay? It's a criminal offence under the Legal Services Act 2007 to actually draft trusts en masse and sell them to an unsuspecting public. Laura will say, when Laura contacted me, she's not only unhappy that I didn't give him a right to actually kind of rebut all of this stuff, so I offered him the right of reply. I said, I'll do an interview with him. No, he's not doing that. So it's like, well, then why are you moaning about it?
He's not coming on your shitty show.
No, that was the comment which came after. But initially she said, no, he's not doing that. It's like, well, then why argue about it? If he's not going to come on and face the music, why even bring it up? Now, I then attempted to explain to her what was wrong with the trusts, right? Wasn't interested. This was the message on Facebook Messenger. Wasn't interested. She then ended the conversation. And on the 3rd of October, having made a video where she made some snide little remarks, which was about, I think, the end of August time, on the 3rd of October, I woke up, opened up my YouTube channel to find some abusive messages on there in which she was insinuating I was a cokehead,
And
right?
a scammer.
Telling me to F off and blah, 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 blah. So I took the message, right? Well, sorry, then she's actually started putting other abuse up online. So she was obviously going into one for whatever reason. And so then I took one of her messages and I dissected it and I responded to it on my Facebook page, and that just set her off, and off it's gone. It's gone off the scale. Now, in her original Facebook messages to me, she admits that she knows nothing about trusts. So, question. I know nothing about rocket propulsion, jet engine propulsion or rocket propulsion, right? I know nothing. So would it be just of me and right of me and accurate, and would I have any credibility whatsoever to say that, you know, some rocket manufacturer's rocket ZX1 is actually just not up to scratch and it can't do the job? I mean, have I got any credibility whatsoever in saying that? That its design is faulty and that and that the engineers don't know what they're talking about? Well, of course not, because by my own admission, I don't know anything about it. I know nothing about the subject matter. So by admitting she knows nothing about it, she has no credibility and is not in a position to make any determination about my knowledge, Darren's knowledge, or anybody else's knowledge. Right? She's in no position to judge because she has no knowledge of the subject matter. She then went on in a number of her calls to actually then try to persuade her membership that Darren is the best thing since sliced bread when it comes down to trusts. Knows everything he's talking about, knows everything there is to know about trusts, and also that I don't know what I'm talking about, albeit the fact she later contradicted herself in one actual at one point and said, oh, maybe he does know what he's talking about. But she then tried to persuade people that there's such a thing as a legal private trust, and there's something such as a kind of private, not legal private trust. Now, that's gobbledygook as far as I'm concerned. And so let me just explain one or two things. And you can check this out for yourself by simply Googling it. If you Google the question, what is a trust? The Law Society will say to you, because I've posted this on my Facebook page the other day, the Law Society will say it is a legal transaction, right? It's a legal transaction. A trust. In other words, Laura's trying to say, one of the things she's been saying is Simon's trying to drag people back into the legal. I'm sorry, you cannot have a trust without a legal title. A trust is created by taking an item, okay, splitting the title, the absolute title, the whole, splitting it into legal title and equitable title. All right, the legal title goes to the trustees, the equitable title goes to the beneficiaries. So every trust that is created, no matter how you created it, has a legal title which is held by the trustees. Therefore, you can't have a trust without legal title, and therefore legal land is involved in every single trust, whether it's a private trust, a public trust, a statutory trust. It doesn't matter. There is a legal title, whether it's held in Argentina, assuming Argentina recognizes trusts, whether it's held in Scotland, England, over in the Outer Hebrides, on the planet Uranus, it doesn't matter. There is a legal title, and that legal title is administered by the trustees. It's in accordance with legal rules. It's upheld by legal land. And if you had a problem as a beneficiary with the trustee, breaking his or breaching his duties, and violating his role to you, the beneficiary, you would enforce that in a legal court. End of story. End of story. I challenge anyone to prove me wrong. Let's put some money on it. It's an easy win for me. I know I'm going to win.
So look, we used to have this with Trina. Okay, Trina used to say that, you know, we're not drafting trusts, this is a private contract. And I hear very similar stuff coming out of Laura's mouth, which I can only assume has come from Darren Norman, because she says, confesses herself that she knows nothing. So if it's come from Darren, and people like Trina and Darren believe that, you know, you can write your own trust paperwork because it's a private agreement, a private contract between parties, what would you say to that?
Well, look, at the end of the day, right, a trust can be created. Well, in fact, actually, look, let me rewind. Let's just go through the definitions, right? What's a private trust? A private trust is a trust which names the beneficiaries. Uncle Joe, my cousin Vinny, from the film, you know, my son Jehovah, whatever. Oh, sorry, not Jehovah, Joseph, whatever. Right. So you're naming the beneficiaries. That carries the definition of a private trust. What's a public trust? A public trust is something which benefits the public at large. For example, a charitable trust foundation. Typically, charitable trust foundations or charitable trusts will, you know, are set up to benefit the public at large. That's a public trust. What's a statutory trust? A statutory trust is something which comes into play, arises from a void. In other words, a typical scenario among people, right, or persons, because we're talking about legal land, a typical scenario that can arise and where people have not made provision to protect themselves, statute comes in to fill the void, and that's called a statutory trust. And I'll give you the biggest example, right, the most obvious example. If you die without having made a will, the rules of intestacy kick into play, which in this country, every state has got its own rules of intestacy. But in England and Wales, what happens is that it will say, I think it's 50% goes to your wife, 50% goes to your kids. And then it's a whole flow chart as to where your funds go, whether you're married, single, kids, no kids, uncles, aunts, whatever, parents still alive, blah, blah, blah. And it's so that your estate is disposed of fairly amongst the family, right? Your next of kin. Now that a will is a trust relationship, believe it or not, because, you know, the executor, the same position as trustee, is there. He takes the estate and he distributes it to the beneficiaries, right? So it's a trust relationship. Now that is a statutory trust. Statutes exist to uphold and protect trust relationships. That's it.
Beneficiaries,
Now,
mainly.
what I suspect, Darren, Trina, Laura, where all these, Peter Wilson, what I suspect they're trying to explain, but doing a pretty bad job of doing it, right? I think they're trying to create and explain foreign jurisdiction trusts. A trust which stands outside of the UK jurisdiction. That's what I think they're trying to get at or create. The problem that they are going to face is that every trust must be administered somewhere. in accordance with the rules somewhere, legal rules somewhere, because the trustees administer the trust in accordance with legal rules, usually in the state where they reside. So if the trustees live in England and Wales, there's going to be a presumption that the trust has been drawn up and is going to be governed by the rules of England and Wales. If there's a dispute, that dispute can be taken up in England and Wales. It's a presumption. In fact, actually, it's in case law for trusts, and it's in our course about trusts. And it's, they're basically, I think that from memory, the case law was something along the lines of the trustees can be overseas, but they must come over to the domestic jurisdiction for at least, at some point during the year, and then they can go back from whence they came if they want to administer it in a different jurisdiction, right? So the point is that these people who are attempting to say that a private trust, just that definition, a private trust stands outside of governmental control or legal land control, is complete folly. It's the biggest load of baloney I've ever heard, and it's a case of the blind leading the blind, right? And I've tried to make this as simplistic as possible by asking the question. I said to Laura, Laura, what title does a trustee hold? And she said, I don't know enough about trusts. Stop changing the subject. It's like, no, but this is the subject. This is the subject. The trustees hold legal title. How can you say I'm dragging people into legal land when every trust has a legal title? If I'm dragging people into legal land, so is Darren, who she's promoting, because he's selling trusts, and every trust has a legal title. I don't know how many. I'm going to have it tattooed on my forehead. Every trust has a legal title, right? Because it does. Now, I've even challenged, I put up a post, I've challenged them, show me the trust. It was even in my legal documentation. I had to send Laura Nina a 56 page letter before claim, right?
Well, look,
and in it, I challenged her to name the trust which does not have a legal title. And she could not answer the question.
Look, Lynn's put in the chat here. This is the response from Darren, right? This is what Darren's trusts actually say. It says the trust operates independently of public or statutory systems, ensuring that your assets are safeguarded according to the principles of private trust law. Have you heard of anything called private trust law?
There's no such thing.
Let's
Google it. We can prove it. Let's Google it.
Well, it's not just that. It's just, these people are putting stuff down to mislead others, which is really actually quite scary. Because where would Lynn go? Lynn, if your trustee went AWOL and went rogue, right, and took all your assets that they're supposed to be looking after on your behalf for the benefit of the beneficiaries, if they ran away, where would you go and get remedy? Would you go to where's this private trust law? Which court would you go to?
Well, it's private trust law principles, right?
There is no court that will recognise it, is it? And in one of the notices I actually sent to Darren, I said, is he willing to accept liability if the trust is not recognised by court? Of course, he's never answered that.
Well, this is the thing. The problem is that because, the people responsible for managing and overseeing the trust are the trustees. If they do anything wrong, they are holding legal title. So where do you think you hold them accountable? You hold them accountable in a legal court. You have to, because they're holding legal title. It's obvious. The clue's in the question. So the problem is by then saying, well, this isn't, this can't be interfered with by this. Well, that's great. But if a judge says, I don't recognize this trust, the courts have the power to disintegrate and obliterate a trust or an alleged trust. So what it means is then that in a situation where Darren Norman, someone's paid, a lot of money to have one of these trusts drafted in the belief that this guy is some kind of expert, right? Which he isn't. But if and he can sue me on that if he thinks otherwise, and I'd love to see that happen. It might bring him out, bring him out of the cave and let's get it out in the public. If he if you wanted to if the judge says this is a pile of rubbish, then whoever's paid him for these valuable trusts, you've got no protection whatsoever because there will be no trust because it's a pile of baloney. right? And
Mhm.
that's so not only will you have spent lots of money, in many cases, he's not even delivering toilet paper. You're getting nothing for your money, right? He's not even delivering a poorly worded or constructed trust. You're getting nothing because he's just taken the money and not delivered, right? That's like buying a new TV set, waiting 2 years, and then Currys are moaning, saying, "Well, why are you having a go at me? Why are you having a go at me? We haven't delivered the television set for 2 years. What's the problem?" Right, it's just like, what do you mean, what's the problem? The problem is you haven't delivered the TV set. And what you've delivered isn't a television. You've delivered me a bucket of shit. I can't watch Match of the Day on that, right? So at the end of the day, okay, what we have is a situation where too many of these people, some of them have gotten hold of certain templates. I know that Peter Wilson, I know that Gumshoe are working from the same template. I know that Darren Norman, I think he's drafted his own thing. You've got various other parties. I know SPL Pro, David Giammatteo, whatever his name is. I know that he has got a trust which he's been selling. I know that because I've got a copy of it, which is just as appalling as everybody else's that I've been naming. Now, the problem is that there's nothing stopping an individual from drafting their own trust. If you feel confident in doing it, if you are prepared to take the risk for something that could mean a lot to you in terms of your wealth, the value of your property, or whatever the case may be, if you are prepared to take that all on the chin if you've done it wrong, then you are able to draft your own trust, right? So where Laura Nina is saying anyone can draft a trust, yes, in that aspect. But what you cannot do, because you are not insured for a start and you're not licensed for a start, you cannot draft trusts en masse and sell them to an unsuspecting public. You can't do that. You have to be licensed. You have to be a solicitor. You have to be a barrister. You have to be qualified. You have to be indemnified in case you've done it wrong. Okay. Now, we offer trusts, but guess what? Our trusts are drafted by solicitors.
And they're a
You'd
fraction of the cost as well. We don't rip people,
You'd think that I would maybe have a bash at doing it myself. No, no way. Because I've seen these trust documents, right? There's no way I'm going to have a bash at drafting it myself. It's too risky. I wouldn't want to put anyone's property at risk.
Hey, sorry, go on, Jane.
Sorry, I don't know if I've missed something in my absence, but knowing this about Darren Norman, right, and like personally knowing what Lynn's gone through and members of her family through Darren Norman, where on earth did this gobshite come from?
He was, I think he's...
No, Laura Nina.
Laura Nina, where did she come from?
Yeah.
She just popped up in 2020. That's her Facebook account.
What did he do to make her start sticking up for him? And
because she's been promoting his stuff. So I mean, at the moment she's also promoting, get your meters removed. But I know those guys give I think it's a 50 quid referral. Again, there's nothing wrong with referrals. It's how things are done, and everybody, can for their efforts and stuff. It helps support people in the movement, right? I've got no issue with that per se, but I do have an issue with what's being sold. It's like, look, if you want to refer someone over to me and I'll sell them a bucket of dog shit, that's great. But why would anyone want to buy a bucket of dog shit? Okay. Yeah. Now, if you're referring them over to join our platform and they want to come on and they do a course and this, that, and the other, we actually split our course proceeds 50-50 with whoever wants to refer people to us. If they think we do a good job, we split it 50-50 down the middle. Okay. In actual fact, we lose because we pay processing fees. So actually, we don't get 50%. Whoever refers gets 50%. We don't. We get less than 50%. So that's how fair we are, right? I'm not saying everyone should do 50-50, but the thing is, it's nice that if someone's going to promote you and they've come on and taken the time to look at what you're doing and they want to refer it to you, then it's nice that you reward those people and you share the love, right? That's the way I look at it. You're sharing the energy, the love, right? Everyone's going to be benefiting because we're all here to propagate and get the information out there, per se, and actually, enable people to be educated and wake people up. We want to wake people up and show them something alternative, but not like this. Not like this. People are getting ripped off left, right, and center, and it's wrong. Because what are people going to do? You know, I saw a message. This is Matrix Freedom, funnily enough. I saw a message on my YouTube when I had the videos up on YouTube before Stampy Boy got them taken down with defamation. They're still there. If you use a VPN, you can still see them all on YouTube, but you can't see them in the UK, right? You have to use a VPN as if you're coming from a different country, and then you can view them. And this woman had spent 16 grand. That was her savings, life savings, because she believed she could get her mortgage wiped off. And you've only got words on YouTube. You can't see people, but you could tell that she's crying as she's writing this. You can tell. And it's just like, that makes me sick to the pit of my gut. All I wanted to do was go around and lump him. Seriously, right? Because I was so angry. And it's like, well, what else can you do? All I can do is put this stuff out, you know, and try to warn people. And here's a question, right? Here's a question, because, you know, we said earlier, you asked the question, well, who put you in that place? And I said, well, okay, well, those people doing the wrong, they gave me the job, because scripture states if you see wrong being done and you don't call it out, you're just as guilty. But here's another thing, right? Let's say that I sell you a cooker and it's got a fault on it and it could blow up. Yes or no? Would you like me to warn you?
Well, yeah.
Yes. Okay, let's say you're driving down the motorway. You're coming up to the QE2 bridge, Dartford Bridge, right? The suspension things are out. It's going to collapse any moment. It's been damaged. Okay? Do you want me to warn you that the bridge is out? Yes or no? You're going down there at 70 miles an hour, or shall I just let you go by? You want to be warned?
Exactly.
Right. Okay, great. There's a con man knocking on houses in your street. Do you want me to warn you? Yes or no?
Yeah.
He's going to come in, hit you over the head. He's been killing people in your street. Do you want me to warn you? Yes or no? Right. There's a con man selling dodgy trusts or dodgy mortgage services or whatever. Do you want me to warn you? Yes or no?
Exactly.
There you
Yeah.
go.
So
Now,
Woody,
the point
then
is, sorry, Woody, yeah, go on, fire away.
Woody's had on for a while. And then we'll come to Nia.
Hi, thanks, Andy. Hi, everyone. Again. Just a very quick point on this. These trusts that have been these foreign jurisdiction trusts. I'm like, in my head, what I'm drawing an analogy from is, I remember seeing a Judge Judy back in the day, and on this Judge Judy, I'd not been long learning about trusts. It became clear that Judge Judy were doing in this particular case, somebody giving somebody some money to go and buy them something. They hadn't bought the thing and they hadn't given it to who they were meant to give it to. So that's effectively a trust scenario that you've got there with those three parties and the res. And that's effectively what Judge Judy looked to establish. Now that was what you would properly call a private trust. I know one of the analogies you use, Simon, or one of the scenes from a film, as you're prone to do, and I absolutely love it, is that scene from Pulp Fiction with the watch, Private Doughboy's watch. And it's the same thing. It's a private trust. It is private. Nobody knows what's going on. However, when there's some kind of an issue, even with that private trust, this is what we're going up in Judge Judy's courtroom. And Judge Judy established who the three parties were, blah, 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 and obviously judgment came down. Errant trustee, effectively. Because the res was, or the money were handed over to service the purchasing of this, whatever it were, but it never arrived with the beneficiary. So obviously, we've got an errant trustee at play there. And point of me raising this is, where was that private trust adjudicated? In a courtroom. In a courtroom. So it was just another way of trying to reinforce the points that you were making earlier, Si.
No, that's right. Well, it's either enforced in a courtroom or it's enforced outside of a courtroom. And I would wager most people would rather have the courtroom. Otherwise, we come back to a scenario where the heavies turn up and they enforce it privately, right?
Yep.
There'd be people soon crying about that, I've got no doubt.
We're back to gangs, aren't we?
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Mia, you got your hand up for a while, my lovely. Thank you, Woody. Oh, just going to plug his in. And then we'll come to Fiona.
Didn't Ian have his hand up as well? That sounds good.
Woody.
Oh,
Hello, Peach. Sorry about that. I just
It's
I was just
okay.
about the thing, but now I wanted to say something. Um, it was very interesting to get invited to this Zoom because for me it was very interesting to get invited to this Zoom as part of I Am community, which I feel very, very precious about. I used to be a member at ETP. I was one of the first to join. I had known Simone from the movement, and it was a very special place before, and pardon my French, before some shit hit the fan, which many people are aware what happened, what didn't happen. I was not in a place in my life where I didn't want to take on anything on. So I expressed that I choose to remain neutral. I don't want to know anything about it because let me just go back a bit. So first of all, I like to say about myself, I don't consider myself a fighter. I consider myself a lover of truth, lover of freedom, lover of whatever you want to call it in this point of my life. And I never used to be a grateful person up until maybe 10, 12 years ago. I didn't think there was much to be grateful for in my life. And that's just where I was. Although on the outside, you may think that I had everything to be grateful for. We all do. But there was a dramatic change in my life, and I became the most grateful person on the planet. Everything that unfolds, happens, I'm grateful for the opportunity to grow from. And I used to be vocal on the ETP. I don't know if Simone remembers me, on the ETP Wednesday evenings. And I always used to express gratitude for the things that were unfolding. And although the reason why I wanted to say something is because ETP has not been in my life for the last 2 years, not choosing of my own. It wasn't a very happy ending between myself and ETP. But now I have found a wonderful community home, and I am. And interestingly enough, ETP is back in the fold. So that really made me think about stuff and brought stuff up for me. And if this is going to be an ongoing partnership, I do apologize because this is a little bit more personal to me. But I came here because I thought, well, if there's going to be future going forward, I feel that I need to clear some air, and I need to have a bridge here, because the way things ended was not in a way that I would have liked for things to be. I am aware that that time, I think you guys mentioned July 2022, shit was unfolding, like I said eloquently, and clearly was very turbulent time for you. The way things unfolded between myself and ETP left me feeling like everything was very much mishandled in the way that things were mishandled with myself and my partner Trevor. We attempted to offer some support to steady the ship rather than get involved in the conflict. I didn't want to get involved in the conflict. Trevor and I wanted to remain Switzerland, so to speak. I didn't want to get involved in anything because it had nothing to do with us. And we were effectively made to leave. Our membership was cancelled, despite the fact that this was a private member association. And as members, we had no say. We were just kicked out because we effectively didn't want to pledge total loyalty or alliance. And that it would not have been fair to do so, because it's not something that we felt we could do at the time. We wanted an opportunity to get to know the new people coming onto the scene, which was Simon coming onto the scene. To us, he was a new person. Anywho, I feel that the situation with us was very much mishandled. We were deprived of what we considered to be that community was home to us at the time. And we did have communication, which to the very bitter end remained very dignified and very civilized. But nevertheless, it ended where it ended. So I just want to know what's changed and how can we reconcile to have a relationship going forward, because I've got no intention of leaving IM, and I love the community, and I love that I had found a place where it feels good to belong. And I just want to find out what is different and how can we reconcile that, because I am vocal and I have I have things to say, like I used to be vocal in ETP. And again, I'm going to reiterate that whatever happened with between trustees or founders or whatever. I'm completely uninterested in knowing the conflict. But I want to know, for me, how are things changed and how we can reconcile and how we can build a bridge so I can feel comfortable where I am going forward. Thank you, guys.
Well, look, we're not asking anyone to leave IAM. In fact, actually, quite the contrary. It's a kind of collaboration between the three platforms, and in fact, there are other platforms that are coming on board. We've got, in fact, just to mention that the author of Jurisdictionary, who is a 45-year attorney in America, very lovely guy.
Dr. Graves.
Dr. Graves, yeah. And we've actually just finished well, not say finished, we've almost finished a collaboration with him, which is a completely free website, funnily enough. It talks about self-control, self-government, and all these kind of things. So yeah, principles. So that's going to be released probably
January.
now, probably beginning of January, because Dr. Graves unfortunately suffered a heart attack, which put a bit of a delay on the production of the website, albeit the fact the website's about 75% complete. But anyhow, separate matter. So we're not asking anyone to leave, any particular platform and come somewhere else. That's not what it's all about. In terms of what has changed, well, let me just hark back to what actually happened at the time. I appreciate that whether people were aware of it or not, unfortunately, the actions which took place at that time from two trustees who wanted to take the intellectual property of ETP and use it for commercial purposes, that's what happened. Whether that was communicated to everyone, I know there were communications coming from Matt and Katrina, there were communications coming from us. But in essence, when a trustee or two trustees are acting in violation of their duties, they have to be removed. Okay, they have to be removed. Now, let's look at what actually happened since the separation, or the fallout, if you like. I appreciate it was a turbulent time at that point in time. I appreciate emotions were running high. I had been portrayed as the bad guy coming in to undermine and usurp and take over the platform. Right? That's how I was being portrayed by Matthew
Simon,
and
you were
Katrina.
not. That is so absolutely fine. I really am uninterested in anybody else what they say. I did say that we voted non. What was it? Again,
You
against.
didn't. Yeah, you weren't. You voted against Simon's appointment as a trustee, didn't you?
I did,
Yeah.
and I not that I have to justify myself why, but in my communication, I said because we don't know you, and that was the first time we've ever had communication with you. I was unaware about anything else,
No,
and the
sure,
only
no,
communication I had was the communication I had directly with yourself.
sure.
So
So
I'm truly uninterested. Yeah, of course, I'm truly uninterested in what anybody else is saying. This is directly. How can we build from here? I know you're not asking anybody to leave or anything else. What I'm trying to see is how can we build from here and reconcile from what happened, which I know it was completely unjustified action towards myself and my partner.
Well, allow me to finish what I'm saying,
Of
because
course, go
once you
ahead.
understand what happened at the time, I need to explain what happened at the time in order for you to understand who I really am. You see, because whether you like it or not, I have the proof that that is the way I was being portrayed to people. Okay, I was being described as, I've got Katrina's email, which she sent out on the 24th, Sunday, the 24th of July 22, in which she described me as a thief, a fraudster, and someone that had come in to usurp and undermine and take over. It was described as a takeover of the platform, when in actual fact, that is nothing that happened. What happened is that I was approached by Simone initially to come and provide my solutions and make them available to the ETP membership, right? Now, let me make something clear. The arrangement between you and your cash and ETP is that courses which were available over on you and your cash are now available over at ETP. You and your cash receives 20% of what it would otherwise have received for the sale of each of those courses. So every sale that's made of a course over at ETP, of a you and your cash course, actually gives me, or you and me, I say me, you and your cash, 20% of what we could have sold it for over at you and your cash. In other words, every course is a donation from you and your cash to the ETP membership of 80%. Put another way, it's a loss maker. Now, that hopefully dissuades or dispels any notion that this was a takeover. We were invited to come over. We were asked, pleaded with almost. There were a number of meetings which took place in which we were, sold on the idea, if you like, persuaded to come over, right? Obviously, we bought into the whole notion of what ETP is about, the community and so on and so forth. We liked the idea of it. Okay, the plus point for us, right? What were we going to get out of it? Well, what we were going to get out of it was a team of people who could actually help me with the research, because I'm one guy and I can't do everything. And they were going to help go into different avenues which I needed to be researched in order to do more things quicker. And that was the deal. That was the arrangement. Now the problem is that the two parties concerned, let's put it this way, and we won't harp on about that much more, but suffice to say, there is a criminal prosecution which is now laid before Kingston Crown Court. The trial is set for October next year. 4 counts of fraud, 2 counts of misuse of computers, and that's what they're up for. Okay, we spent 30 grand on a private criminal investigation that was conducted by Dr. Tariq Ghafoor, the ex-assistant commissioner to the Metropolitan Police, okay, KPM MBE, all right, and his team of ex-Scotland Yard detectives. We reported Matthew and Katrina to the police. We crowdfunded a private criminal prosecution. You can't just make up a prosecution. You can't just get that pushed through magistrates. There has to be substance to it. It has to go through a 2-stage threshold test. That's to actually have the magistrates issue the summons. Then it has to get past the summons stage, which it has gone, to get over to Crown. And that's where we're at the moment. So there is substance to the actual prosecution and the claims being made. Plus, of course, we've got Gary Summers from 9 Bedford Row. He's an internationally acclaimed fraud barrister specializing in fraud. We've got Henry Hughes from memory, who is an intellectual property specialist counsel. And we've also had a CPS level 4, Crown Prosecution Service level 4 barrister look over the case. All right. So this is not something that we've done lightly. All right. I appreciate emotions and tensions and everything was running at the time. Information was, stories were being given out, blah, blah, blah. People may have been confused, not knowing what was going on. I get it. I was the new kid on the block. A lot of people pointed the finger at me. I get it. But ultimately, from one perspective, from my perspective, ETP was a hell of a lot of nonsense that I totally did not need. I didn't have to put up with all that. But I saw, but with what happened, I was there. I was in negotiations with ETP and witnessing what was happening at the time, and I did witness it. Simone was living through it. I was living through it. We witnessed this real time. There was a lot of stuff people did not see. I appreciate that. You didn't see this. It's all going on behind the scenes. But what's happened since? Well, Matthew and Katrina got their wish. They cloned the websites and they ran their own platforms. Within 14 months,
Simon,
that platform.
my question was not in terms of all of that stuff. I'm personally asking about something completely different. It's not about the conflict. I'm not asking about the conflict. How are we going to be treated? Because I don't believe we were treated fairly. We were culled out of ETP against our will, and we had to move on, and that's okay. It was very difficult for us, and we did offer an olive branch in terms of helping. We offered some support. How can we help you to steady the ship at the time? All this stuff is exactly what we were not interested in, but we wanted to remain neutral in all of that, whilst offering support for the community, for all of us to move forward peacefully. And I'm still on the same journey, even though we were culled, and that's what happened. We didn't engage in anything, my partner and I. We just moved on, thinking, I'm grateful that things unfolded. We've learned something. Maybe it wasn't the right time, the right place, but now ETP is back in the fold of my life. And I need a bridge here. And to be fair with you, Simon, actually, this question was more, and maybe I wasn't clear. I had a relationship with Simone, but I didn't get a chance to speak with her because when I sent the first email after that, it was all responses from you. And we got to know that you were where you were. Yes, emotions were running very high for you guys. But for me, and I still do, I want an opportunity to peacefully continue on that journey. And how can we do this now?
Can I make a suggestion quickly, please? Listening to this. ETP is back in your life again. See that as a trauma has resurfaced, so to speak, and only consciousness now can move everybody forward to evolve from the trauma that needed resurfacing, clearly.
Yeah, you're right, Jen. And I want to have a conversation around how can we all evolve to meet in a space where we can do things differently and better. You're absolutely right.
Well, this is not necessarily a case of meeting and doing things differently because you're a member of I Am. And whilst we're collaborating, aside from the fact that we've got common goals in certain aspects, obviously I Am's a different platform from ETP. So there's no need for you to interact with ETP in any way, shape, or form if that causes you distress in any way, shape, or form.
No, it doesn't cause me distress. No. It's
I-
not
I
about
think-
if I can,
Sorry to interrupt. I mean, I think at the end of the day, this is a conversation that could go on quite a while, and I agree it needs to be discussed. However, the collaboration, for want of a better word, I think it's communities working alongside each other. Is Simon and Simone came on board because a lot of people were asking me for trusts. I got no knowledge of trust whatsoever, and then obviously when we found out things were going wrong, Simon generously stood up and said, "Okay, I can possibly help." And he came on, did a couple of Zooms, and I think that's where the relationship's grown. I've always had a friendship with Simone, because obviously I met her back in 2020. So I've never had anything to go against Simone. But when Simon and I started conversing, we started talking, we started chatting on emails and everything else, and then he jumped in to say, "Okay, look, I can help Lynn, I can help someone here." That for me showed the measure of what he's trying to do. He was doing this free of charge, and I thought that's brilliant.
That's everybody
that's
evolving from.
Yeah, so that for me it's showing the fact that the communities can work alongside each other.
Yeah.
The ETP and Union Cash have totally different processes to what we have, as we know that. They have. The way I look at it, IAM is still in its infancy. We're still finding our feet. We're still trying to grow. We're still trying to find out what we're doing. Whereas when I look at what ETP and Your Cash can do,
Yes.
it's a question of they have a legal team behind them. They have all the skills and knowledge there. We don't have that at IAM currently at the moment. We have Trev, we have yourself, we have Jen, myself, and we're all still learning. So for me, the collaboration is going to come. For me, this is me saying it as it is. The past is the past. For me personally, whatever's happened in the past has happened. I mean, I could hold a grudge against someone doing that video against me, but you know, we sat there and had a conversation.
Made you the man you are today, though.
Yeah, and for me now, I can only deal what's right, what's in front of me right here, right now, as Fatboy Slim says. So that for me is. Yeah, I mean, I used to get jealous of what ECP were doing. Oh, look at them, they're doing bloody mortgages. Do you know what I mean? They're doing all this stuff. Think, oh, why can't I do that? And I was getting quite jealous. I thought, no, my path's different. ETP and Union Cash are there for us to use, not to use, that
Not
sounds right,
use.
but collaborate with for their knowledge and their skill sets when we need them.
And vice versa.
And vice versa. I mean, we know that the new promissory note process is going to knock them out the park because the way I've done 6 months of bloody research on it and testing it, so we know now it's going to work beautifully. And it's the same with trust. I mean, there's no way I'd ever want to start doing trust within IAM because hey, no, I don't want to go down that road. Thank you. I've seen much money.
You could do one with Trina, basically.
I just think at the end of the day, we all have a huge opportunity here. The fact is the member base of ETP, you and your cash, and what we've got here at IAM is growing. And the more we can do together, the better it can be for the whole community the whole United Kingdom won't even good because we can bring more and more people together.
And we're all chosen. I mean, looking at all your faces, you're all individually chosen for a reason. And it can't be done out there with the Carly Spells, etc., Richard Vogues. It just can't be done.
I think at the end of the day, Nia, if there's anything I can help you move forward on this, you know I'll be there to help you.
Absolutely, Andy, I know that, and
never
that's
going to be an
why.
issue.
And absolutely, I know, and it's been wonderful being part of that community.
Thank you. But I think at the end of the day, I'm sure Simon's community's got different guidelines and policies to Simone, and same as us. So we've all got different guidelines and policies we need to follow. And obviously, I'm not saying you did, please don't think that, but if someone came on and someone did the other day, they breached our guidelines, I gave them a warning. I literally have come up with a warning process. Sorry, what you did there was wrong. So please don't do it again. This is the community standards, please have a read. And I think that's where we've all got to uphold ourselves. We've got to uphold our own standards. What are our own values and standards?
And also, well, no, it's just also, look, you know, I appreciate where Nia's coming from. And, you know, I was very sad as well. You know, I lost good friends, and I'd met you, I think, around 2020. You came on Lawful Observers course. You know, we developed, we were in quite a few communications and a few different groups together. So, you know, for me, it was a loss, not just, you know, of, what happened and that all that fallout, but there was real loss and grieving that I had to go through just as much as anybody else. But what I think a lot of people don't appreciate or might not appreciate, and I'm not saying that you don't recognize this or anything, but a lot of people don't, they just don't think about it. It's a lot of the decisions are not even on a personal level anymore. Okay, a lot of the decisions are because we are trustees that have a duty of care to all the members and to protect the platform. So a lot of people will say, well, you've I'm not saying that you've said this, but we've had it where members think it's a personal thing, but we have to bring them back. Well, no, we're just managing the trust and the rules that govern that trust. And if you're, if there's any inkling or any, any kind of possibility that the platform itself could be compromised, whether that's security, whether it's somebody stealing stuff, or whether it's hurting other members or whatever else, we as trustees have a moral and duty and obligation to ensure that the members are protected, but also the IP and everything else is protected. Now, I'm not saying that that's anything to do with our situation here, but I just a lot of people don't realize that we have the responsibility to make sure that the platform and everything else and everybody's enjoyment and benefit of that platform is protected. And sometimes that means letting go of other people that might be a risk or might cause issues for others. It's not necessarily. So we have to look at the bigger picture, I think, is what I'm trying to say. There are rules. We have to have rules because every society has rules. The legal society has its rules, right? It has its own language, right? And we are, creating our own private society, which will have its own rules, which are, agreed upon by the members. And when they're broken or when they're flouted or when they're crushed or dishonored, where do you go with that? You have to have boundaries. You have to have these rules in place. So I'm not saying that that's anything related to you, because I'm not saying you broke rules or anything like that.
No, I haven't.
I'm not saying that at all. But a lot of people outward looking in don't realize that we have rules for protection, for security reasons, and to ensure that everybody can get to enjoy what is being created, without any issues. You've got people like Laura Nina, saying, well, if you don't follow his rules and abide by the way he wants you to know, the rules are there to protect and to honor what is the integrity of that platform. If you don't have rules, what happens?
I agree with you. I agree with you.
So I'm not saying that's necessarily answering your question, but
it's not, but
Andy
I agree
was
with
talking about rules and why we have them. And a lot of people think that we just make decisions without, on a personal basis, but it's not. It's actually looking at the bigger picture.
Me and Andy personally come from no judgment.
Mm-hmm.
No judgment. End of. That's it.
There you go with that.
That's all I'm saying. If you can come with no judgment,
yeah,
you're then using your own choices, your own due diligence. I can't even speak.
do you know the J?
Probably do need another J, actually. But do you see what I'm trying to say? If there's no judgment and we're not listening to all the turds out there constantly waffling and gobbledygooking about idle ridiculousness, I mean, yeah.
That was a waffle.
What I said, thank you, Simone, for that. And yes, you're right. We were connected on we had quite a lot of communication, and we were connected on different groups and so on and so forth. So what I used to say when I used to have my own group to many people that didn't like this or that or the other, to me the most important thing is not to look at our differences, but to unite on the basis of I lost my train of work. Oh, I can't believe it. I lost my train of thought.
Common goals.
They're on the common ground.
Yeah,
on the
exactly.
common ground.
That's
So
basically all we need to do is work on the common ground together. The fact that
on the common ground, yes. So
we all have the same
our
ethos.
differences, we can have, and that's what makes us as it's individuals.
Yeah.
So it's important to work on the common ground
Plus,
and
we were
unite around the common ground.
Yeah, plus we were completely different people in the past. As from
Absolutely.
yesterday, we were completely different people because we evolve constantly from
I agree.
size, traumas, so many different things. So yeah, it's common ground and just end it all because we were different back then.
Absolutely. And there's been so much growth for us for the last 2 years. So I
Yes.
was curious to see where everybody is after 2 years at this point in time. So yeah, common ground, and I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you, Nia.
Thank you,
Thank
Nia.
you. Thanks for the
Thank you,
comments.
Simon Simone.
Right, so Fiona, you've had your hand up for quite a while. I mean, we're coming up to nearly 3 hours on here, guys. So I mean, I
Oh,
don't,
and Emily now.
yeah, I know. Obviously, we don't know how much longer you want to do. So
Oh, I could do all night. This is great, this.
we can't. We got another one at 7. But Fiona, please go ahead, my lovely.
Thank you. I can't show my face because I'm sitting in the room in the dark. So, but you saw it earlier. So I always find it interesting the attacks that Simon talks about, the way people are, criticizing and saying all these things. So I have a question around that where, do you know how we hear about the system, for want of a better word, planting people into areas they don't want the truth movement to get out? So have you noticed, for instance, where somebody said something about you and you thought, right, I'm going to take them to court, for want of a better phrase, and all of a sudden this person that was attacking you seems to have loads and loads of money for really good defense, almost as though it's a sign that perhaps they were a plant? Do you notice little signs like that across?
Well, to be fair, the only party that's really had loads of money that I've come up against was Ian Stamp, and he didn't use. He attempted. Funny enough, he attempted to sue me and Simone. But his paperwork was so well. I mean, absolute rubbish.
But how
I mean,
many letter
this.
before claims did we receive?
Hold on. Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, the thing is, what he was doing was he was going on the offensive in order to try to scare us off. Now, that doesn't scare me off at all. And I invited him to actually bring the action because he had no claim. Now, funnily enough, his paperwork, this is a guy who claims to know it all, right? His paperwork was appalling, right? And in fact, he didn't actually know how to express or particularize a claim, and the High Court threw it out. In fact, they threw out 4 of his claims against various parties, stating that he didn't know how to particularize a claim. What he did was he didn't start it off in the right way. He actually just sent an affidavit in, didn't even express a claim at all. And this is a guy who was saying that he'd been to court 25 times, to the High Court, and won. Now, if you've been to the High Court a couple of times, or even once, you'll know that you've got to lodge a claim, right? He didn't even lodge a claim. So his claim was kicked out as being without merit and vexatious. And in addition to the 260 or so mortgage claims that he'd issued, he's now been barred. He's got a civil restraining order against him. He's been barred from the courts, and they're actually thinking of imposing other sanctions. It could be contempt of court and stuff like that. Now, as I say, in terms of other people that I've tried to address, really, we're talking about Paul Michael Yates, who at the moment is on the run, won't give me his address, doesn't want to go to court in order to face the claim that he's stolen my intellectual property and copied my course from You and Your Cash, which he asked to access just a mere 18 months to 2 years before he published his book. If he was doing all this on his own, he wouldn't need to access my course. He claims that he wanted to access it to make sure it didn't have the same content. What? I mean, what is that all about? Anyhow, complete rubbish. I mean, has he attended everybody's course to make sure of the same thing? No, of course he hasn't. So, you know, there are other people whom I've planned to sue. The problem is that with a lot of these people, you know, it takes up a load. I haven't got the time, so they get away with things because I don't have the time to sue these buggers, right? And there's quite a few I want to sue. I can tell you that right now. But I'm in a private litigation, aside from the criminal prosecution. I'm in a private litigation with Katrina, funnily enough. She's having a very similar problem in as much as she's not been able to particularize her claim, and the judge has already warned her that she may not even have a claim. I've actually counterclaimed against her, and that's ongoing. So I'll let you know more about that as and when we get a decision on that. But in terms of noise agents, look, there are some people who are noise agents and they don't know it. It's just their nature. It's just the way that they are, and it could be an overlap from the system and the fact that they've been so dependent, and just the way that they've been conditioned, or whatever. You know, it's just their mannerisms that they are actually just noise agents. They can't express themselves properly. They can't express themselves in a clear and concise and intellectual way, and so they just come across as stampy feet little children, right, who just want what they want. Then there are others who are energy vampires. They're just, I call them the same. They're just the same as noise agents. They'll just suck your energy. They just waste your time, and they have no respect. Okay. And then there are those who are actually paid disruptors. And I've not come across any that I've necessarily been in a case where I need to sue them. But there are a few that I've come across who, yeah, I don't necessarily go digging enough, or I certainly didn't used to go digging enough into people, to realize, you know, to think, well, where are they getting their money from and stuff like that. You know, I didn't, that kind of never really crossed my mind. I tended to go by vibe with certain parties and certain people, just some of the questions they would ask or how they would hang around, and so I would distance myself from certain parties who just gave me a bad vibe. Ian Stamp, gave me a bad vibe the moment I met him. I didn't like him the day I met him. He came to one of my courses. I did not like him from day one. Laura Nina, as far as I'm aware, she is in social housing. She's got benefits. I think she's got a boyfriend who supports her. So that's how she gets by. That's how she's got the time to go on and do what she does. That would explain that would allow her actually to have time to do research and create her own website. She's chosen not to do that. Why she is the way that she is, I don't know. It's just her, I guess. But I don't think she does much research. I don't think she does any kind of credible research from what I've experienced and what I've seen. When I did an interview with her, funnily enough, back in October 23, I think it was, she actually came across as okay. So I didn't know anything about her, right? Obviously now I know quite a bit about her, and I'm not impressed with what I'm experiencing or what I'm seeing. But hey ho, there you go. We live and learn, right?
Mm-hmm. Thank you for your question. Emily, get your hand up.
Hi. All right, I just wanted to say thank you. Again, I've really learned a lot this evening, which has been very good for me, and I will be going inward, and I'm going to drop a line to Simone and Simon, offering areas where I feel I may be of benefit to you and service to you as part of the community in this matter. I have actually dealt with tracking down bad people, should we say, criminals, in the past in respect to financial matters. So I may be helpful in that way. I just also wanted to say that I'm in agreement that the I Am community, the ETP community, and the You and Your Cash community are all separate entities. So it isn't that you're suddenly becoming part of one of the others at all, unless you wish to become. It's very much what you've been saying is how collaboration can be with the others in areas that they will actually be able to help those members. And I think that's fantastic, because also there may be areas where we all wish to go and stand together as a whole for specific reasons, you know, maybe in the more of the public community, who knows what might unfold. But it felt right to come on today, and I'm really pleased I have. And so I just want to thank you all of you, for putting this together. I'm really grateful. Thank you.
No, you're welcome. Thank you for the kind words. I mean, you say about coming together, and I think we started that. Well, you guys started when you did your Unity Summit, and you kindly invited us to come up there.
Yeah, that was it. Blown away.
And obviously Simone made her cry, and
Yeah, she did.
I don't do it to
a nice way of
everybody.
making it cry.
Tears of joy. It was tears of joy.
I was going to
yeah.
say.
It wasn't a nipple crunch or anything like that. It was.
Well, no, thank
But
you.
you
And
know
look,
what I think what would be really, really lovely is if we did this. I know we've got no time, but if we just found an hour somewhere in a week or a month just to be able to do this and have a free space to be able to do this. No judgment.
That'd be nice.
That would be nice. Yeah.
yeah, I think these should be, we should, as collaborating groups, you know, I'd love to do this more regularly, have just open and frank conversations. I actually don't want it to be like myself and Simon and you guys speak. I actually want to hear more from others, because
Yeah.
that's how we get creative inspiration on how to make the platforms better and to improve what we're doing, you know, for everybody's benefit, of course. And just getting, you know, inviting everyone, all our members together to have these frank and open discussions. I think that would be great. Yeah.
I think today's been an amazing day so far. I mean, it's when you look at the time now, it's 6 o'clock, and it seems like, you know, look out the window and go, oh, last time I looked out, it was daylight. Now it's dark.
Well, I feel empowered. I feel a lot more empowered than I did before. So yeah.
I mean, let's have some feedback from other people on here. I mean, has today been a benefit to you? I mean, it's not, like I say, it's not just down to us sitting here hosting these things.
Yeah,
It's down to
Simon
you
and
at the end of the
Simone,
day.
have you found any benefit whatsoever from it? Do you feel relaxed a lot more?
Look, for me personally, I actually don't like being on video and like being out there. I felt compelled to do it because of everything. When you learn about so much corruption and the kids, especially, for me, that was the wake up, you know, with all the adrenochrome and all of that stuff. That's the hole that I fell down. And I just felt absolutely compelled to do something, right? And now, of course, time has passed on a bit, and these things are still important, but you've got to look to the future, right? You've got to look to build something that's going to enable us all to thrive and flourish and grow and go on to do even bigger and better things. So for me, the focus was never about being a personality or being famous or having a voice and being this, you know, name out there. I much prefer to keep under the radar, because we want to stay in the private. We want to do stuff to really hurt the system. And of course, if you're putting yourself out there, you're going to be attacked. You're going to become known for that, and then you're not private, and it just creates more issues for yourself. But having these wider community conversations, I think, is really important, because it's not my community, it's our community, you know. It's exactly, we need to come along together.
Totally agree.
Totally agree.
The future is looking quite bright for me at the moment in time, because I can see the collaboration getting bigger and better. At the end of the day, it's how we need to go. We got to, for me out there, too many bloody egos running everything.
Do you know what I'm looking forward to when we get the field?
Food?
And we all meet in the field, not food, field.
Not food.
Yeah, we want to do a camping event next June for our members. But why don't we open that up and have it as a, you know, all communities coming together to do it, just like the Unity Summit, you know. And you know, that's okay, you know, that you've got members there that who might not be members at ETP, but we're all on the same page and we're all working towards the same goals, and that's the important part.
That's the most important part. And the thing is, we've nowhere to go. What are we doing with our goals? What you know, where are we putting them? We've nowhere to go if not with each other.
Yeah. Well, does anybody else have any thoughts, comments, questions, feedback? Is that Dickie wants to say something there?
Yeah, I mentioned this to Andy. Hello, people. I mentioned this to Andy a while ago. What's the opportunities and chances of starting a radio station for something like this? Because a lot of you guys are very talkative and can raise some good points.
I've been asked to do a radio station before, actually. I actually had a guy who said I could
Would
have
you be
that.
shut down at all or not?
I don't think it'd be shut down. No, this was a private platform, but it's time. I ain't got time. I mean,
Well,
look at my
hang-
videos. I want to get back to making my videos. I loved making my videos, but part of me is we're not going to necessarily make them public. It's going to be for the members only, because I don't reward poor behavior externally. So I don't, I'm sorry, I just will not reward bad behavior. And so, but it's at the moment it's time. I just don't have the time to do that, So it would be nice to have podcasts and radio stuff and this, that, and the other. I mean, we've thought potentially having a radio. I mean, we've actually got the ability to have a TV station running. We've actually got over at You and Your Cash.
Radio
We've got the
station.
ability to have a TV station. We sublet off of an existing station or platform, and we could actually have a rolling 24-hour TV station. But again, we've got that. We've already got the license for it. We've done it. We've already got it. We use it to promote investments in gold and stuff like that. But it's time.
Yeah, and that is the big issue. I mean, I know you mentioned to me, Dickie, but you look at my schedule, what I do on a day-to-day, but it's like, okay, let me open 2026 and see what's going on.
Well,
I
it
suppose,
might be on the radio.
suppose the thought behind it would be probably to be waiting for somebody to come along who's in that field and line of work, who's prepared to join the communities and take it forward from there, because that'll be their speciality more than
Does anyone know how to start up a private radio station?
No idea.
I did have a contact who
My dad had
who's
one in the
actually
70s.
who's actually got that facility. So as I say, he offered me a slot on it. But again, it was just time. The problem is, it's with the information that we're playing with now and that we're getting involved in now. That there's certain things that are out there out in the public domain. I'm going to call it the public domain. It's probably the wrong definition or defining word for it, but let's call it public domain. There's stuff that's out there at the moment on the internet. And the stuff that we're playing with at the moment is private. I mean, we keep it private. We're very protective of it. So the thing is, it's what's this radio station going to be about? What's going to be the content? Are we just going to be going over mulling chewing the same old curd again and again and again and again? Or most people will be looking for it to actually go somewhere. And the problem is, with what we've got, what we're playing with, we can't go with that public.
Yeah, Tom, if I look at any old radio station that's available to tune into, I mean, if you stop and listen to them, they just continue playing the same old crap all the time. Music.
I love the 80s ones.
They're repeating themselves all the time. So, I mean, we're not going to be changing anything by starting something up like that.
No, I know, but there's always a kind of internal, there's an internal engine that wants to move forward, if you know what I mean. And so you want it, and then it becomes an internal conflict. I understand what you're saying, and maybe it would be good for newbies per se to have that facility available to them. Maybe. I mean, from that perspective, I guess so. But by putting it out and having a radio station, you then don't draw people to the platforms necessarily. It's a real weird thing that if you put information out and make it available and accessible online, people then don't need to come to the platforms. Whereas if you put tasters out there and then say, which is what I'm about to do, actually, I'm remaking all the videos I've made, shortening them down to 1 to 2 minutes, and then saying for the rest of it, come over and join the membership, and you come and see it, right?
Bite-sized videos.
Yeah, and then now not everyone's going to do that, but hopefully the right people will come to the platform. You have to sieve. It's like you've got to find the golden nuggets, and that, by that analogy, you have to sieve through and find the people that are right for your particular platform, your particular membership.
Well, it's also, people tend to forget that we are not creating this corporate client customer relationship, right? We're not a company, we're not a business that is trying to offer it, get customers on board and sign people up. We're a community, a body, a living, breathing organism that is moving and active and collaborative and contributionary. Everybody participates, everyone brings something to the table. We're all equals, members as equals, standing shoulder to shoulder next to each other. There is no customer-client relationship, right? We don't dress up in ties and suits and service people or provide services. We're a community that stands by our members and assists them, and there's a fundamental difference there. We're not trying to be anything of the world, right? We want to set ourselves apart, and we're building relationally, which is the foundation of everything, really.
So if I have one last question to ask, this can go out to anyone on this one. What's the solution?
Good question. That could go on for years, couldn't it? The answer to that one.
I got another Zoom at 7, so we'll join that one next time.
Well, look, I think people have got to fundamental change of attitude, and I mean everyone, really,
Mindset.
because it's like, the thing is, really, there should be no, as part of that solution, there should be no such thing as money. The currency should be favors. I'll do something for you. But then again, even favors. I do something for you, but you owe me one, right? I mean, and even that, should a favor be done without expectation of receiving it in return? As long as everyone's coming from the same place and singing from the same hymn sheet, there's nothing wrong with that. In other words, service is the currency. The problem with the mindset of most people out there at the moment is that there are plenty of takers and not enough givers, right? And you can't run anything on that, because what you have is a scenario where everything is piled onto the backs of the few. And I've got an analogy with that. When I was on holiday at one time, I think it was Lanzarote or Tenerife. We got off the plane, you get into the coach, it's a package holiday. They're dumping people at their hotels and stuff like that. And there was one particular hotel which was up a hill, and they had a couple of these little donkeys outside, and people could dump their luggage on top of the donkey rather than carry it up the hill, right? Or wheel it up the hill. And I'm telling you, there was one particular donkey that was so loaded. It was like, it must have been about 14 feet of bloody cases on top of this thing. And he couldn't go anywhere, right? Because he'd been overloaded. And that's the analogy. If you've got few givers and too many takers, what happens is that, the givers are going to be overloaded, and nothing happens because they can't go anywhere because they're so overloaded. So there needs to be a fundamental change from that perspective, that people will be in service to each other and give to each other. But likewise, there needs to be an acknowledgement that with regards to property, look, we were given earth as a dominion, right? Which means that everything on the earth belongs to us, each of us. Now, if you were to have the attitude that, well, why do I need it in my possession, my physical possession, my personal possession right now? Why do I need that? Well, I know it all belongs to me anyway. Now, if everyone had that mentality, so they don't have to go out gathering unto I everything I see, well, then that would kind of change things a little bit, right? Because you don't need to be in possession of everything, because everything is yours anyway, right? It's everyone's. The whole thing is everyone's. It doesn't matter whether it's buried under a different continent. It still belongs to me. I know it still belongs to me, and I'm confident in. It's just a mindset. So we need a complete shift of mindset. The problem is I don't see it happening anytime soon. And scripture talks about a narrow gate. Okay, so from a different perspective, I don't see it being a huge awakening and everyone's going to be saved. I don't see that right at all. It's a narrow gate, and it's going to be the few that can actually adopt the right attitudes and come from the right place and work together in a structure that's going to interact with that system but not be contaminated by it. You've got to keep it at greater than arm's length. But hey ho, it remains to be seen. We've got things in mind with regards to that particular structure, but you need people to, you need you need a splattering of talents and skill set in order to make that fly, right? And it's got to be on every continent, right? In every state, you've got to have something similar.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
That's it. I mean, it's like, you have people, we have people filtering away slowly but surely from IAM and stuff. But then they're coming back again, but then they're going again.
Flip-floppers.
Yeah, flip-floppers.
Well, we can talk about that. I mean, we'll have a chat about certain things about how you organise it and stuff.
That'd be brilliant. Well, listen, guys, I think I mean, so I know Simon's got all at 7. I've got something 7 on my stomach, even though it's not a 6-pack anymore, it's just a keg. It's called food. I just want to say thank you to Simon and Simone for coming on this today. Thank you to everyone that's joined in today. I'm
really
truly
loved
grateful.
it.
This has been, for me, one of the best things we've ever done. It's
Without a doubt.
It's been a giggle. There's been lots of serious questions asked and great answers. I just looking forward to what's next, what's coming around the corner, because I think this is looking fantastic. So I'm truly grateful to everyone, Simon, Simone, and everyone who took the time out of their day to come onto this Zoom today. Really, I'm grateful.
Can I
Thanks for
just
having us.
can I just say,
Go
right, that I've only met you two once in my life, and to say that I've met two freaking beautiful people, your souls are just angelic in my eyes, and they could say what the fuck they want out there.
Yeah, I mean, let's be brutally honest. When you met them, Simone made you cry, and you got all giggly over Simon. Let's be honest.
Oh,
You're a bit starstruck, weren't you?
I was a
with my
bit
hunchback at the
starstruck
time.
because I only ever knew bad stuff about you, Simon. That's all I knew, because I was in that stage of my life in the truth movement that I'm not in now. But to actually see you in person, and then Simone's energy next to yours, wow. Just incredible. Power couple, definitely a power couple.
Aw.
oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate the
Welcome.
efforts that you guys, put in getting this session together and driving it
What's
forward.
coming up?
It was actually a really it was actually a spontaneous thing that clearly you were led to do spiritually, and I think that this has been very cathartic, but I think this is just the start of something even more special. So this let's look at what we can do in coming together more often. I'd love to do this on a regular basis, and let's put out the opportunity for members to put their questions forward and have proper meaningful conversations.
Mhm.
Yes.
What does the truth movement look like? What do we want it to look like? What should our rules be? How should we be expected to behave? Because we've lost a lot of that, right? And accountability, So I'm looking forward to it. I think you've got onto something really great here. So thank you.
I think it's been brilliant. I think we just needed to give you guys a bit of a platform as well, because we see the attacks, we see what's been going on.
Yeah.
And like I say, at the end of the day, I didn't like Simon when I first heard of him and all this lot, but then when I got to meet him, when we got to have conversation, and the fact that I can send an email just asking for guidance and advice, boom, he responds. And same with you, Simone. It's fantastic. It's for me, it's heartwarming that the 3 communities that are such are working, collaborating alongside each other. I think it's just brilliant.
It's even the members, though, like Mo and David, and even like other members from ETP, and you're just all so freaking beautiful. You're awesome.
I mean, won't say much about David M, because I mean he's been making me giggle all the way through the afternoon.
We're jealous of Dave's small hand. So a lot of you will have seen there's been a lot of banter in the chat, but we like that every week on a Wednesday. So if you do join us, it's not out of place.
I'm just so grateful.
Yeah.
I am so grateful that you did this. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
And you
Thanks for having us.
deserve the platform.
Oh, well, we deserve to go onwards and upwards together, right? Everybody here, if we want the same, we desire the same, we have intentions of the same, there's no stopping, there's no ceiling, all right? There's no, impossibility about it, that we can make things happen, right? But we've got to be in unity, like you say, and that's the main thing. Thank you.
All right, gang. Well, listen, let's draw a line there in the sand. Let's call it a day today, because I'm sure other people got things they want to do. Again, thank you for everybody taking your time out this afternoon and being here. It's been pretty special. I really appreciate your time. And we even had people in Spain coming on, which is wonderful. Woody and Kirsty, thanks very much. But thanks to all the members of IAM. Thanks to the members of ETP and Your Cash for being here today. Have a beautiful night. And for IAM, I'll see you on the Zoom at 7 o'clock.
Thanks,
See you
gang.
later.
See you later.
See you later.
Bye, guys. Bless you all.
Have a good night, everybody. Thank you very much indeed. Much love to all of you.
Bye.